Welcome back to the Reality Kingdom, where we put the real in reality or whatever. Period. I'm your host, Pharaoh. We are joined by our wonderful co-host, Lee. How are you doing
Fake
today?
it till you make it, bitch. Fake it till you motherfucking.
We're having a wonderful time with this wonderful fun of three today. Yes, Lee.
I'm
Right?
doing great. I'm doing wonderful. Actually, I love this final three. I think this is the best final three in Big Brother history.
One of the best. I was thinking earlier today, I was like, Lisa, Danielle, and Jason, or this. Which one is really hitting for me that way? And I couldn't really do the difference between Lisa, Danielle, and Jason because Lisa would be probably Matt, and I'm thinking Danielle would be Bowie
Bowie
Jane,
Jane, for
and
sure.
then Jason would be the Jays. And so I'm like, which one is really hitting it? Y'all, let me stop. Cause what the fuck? What the hell? Anyways, this is one of the worst final threes. It's down there with Paul and them, but not below
All
Paul.
of them.
That's the thing. That's the thing. The comparison is a little bit there, but in the fact that who the fuck is this final three? But
Yeah,
they're
I
not
hated
worse.
everyone
To me,
in
they're not
season
worse than
15.
Paul and them. Paul and them were just
I mean, they had did a lot of nasty things that season. That's what I'm saying. Like, because even in that final three, I didn't mind Josh too bad, but even in retrospect, it's like Josh was doing a lot of weird shit in that.
He was
Entire
so weird. I didn't like Christmas. I didn't like Paul. And honestly, I would say Andy, Jenny Marie, and Spencer are worse than even Paul, Christmas,
That
and
was a
Josh
nasty
to
one
me.
too.
So
Anyone who made final three that season would have been a nasty.
that's also bad. Season 9, they were all terrible people. I wouldn't say they were worse than these people were worse than them.
Yeah.
So that's 3 just off the top of the dome.
Mickey was literally racist. So
Mickey, Holly, and what's that girl name? The girl who hates Janelle for no reason. Yeah, her. So honestly, they're not that cool either. So honestly, it's not the best final
low,
3, but it's
but
honestly
it's low.
not that bad. It's still low.
Especially definitely in the new era too, because I feel like we've had 2 good seasons of like pretty good final threes in my opinion. Minus a Turner.
The fuck?
What?
I got it, bitch. Ooh, that was scary. I'm so sorry.
Cut this out. This is giving urban.
Oh my god. Anyways, these last 2 final threes, I think, especially BB24. BB24, I didn't like. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like BB24's final 3 because of Turner and Monty. Of course, I love Taylor, and she brings it up tremendously. So that's not that bad because of Taylor. And then BB23, I loved it.
I just think in general, like, there's no results in this final 3 that's gonna like, oh my god, I'm so excited for, or like really, like, I'm excited. No, like I'm a head Jaggernaut. I'm a head Jaggernaut. I'm gonna be excited if Jag wins, but it's not gonna be on a level of like, oh my god, because it's like this is something that we've really expected. Like this entire end game has been pretty stagnant for the most part. Like Matt, Jag, and Bowie has been winning competitions ever since Juria started. Like that's it. So it's like this outcome, like one of the big things that everyone was excited for was Jag to cut Matt potentially. He didn't do it. And I feel like them all being in final 3 together, it's just like, especially the type of season this was, I think that this was a great season, especially the pre-jury phase or the pre-flip phase of the three power structure falling. It was really, really good. But I don't know, it's been pretty stagnant in the end game. So like I'm not happy about this final 3. Like if Felicia was here, it was Felicia, Bowie, and Jag, I'd be more excited because that would be unexpected. That would be like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Felicia can still win. Like there's other outcomes, but this outcome is very straightforward. If Matt wins the final HOH, because Matt has won he's won part 1. They haven't played part 2 yet, but it's pretty straightforward in the fact that if Matt wins, Matt is winning the game. If Jag stupidly takes Matt, Matt is winning the game. If Jag wins and takes Bowie, he wins the game. If he takes Matt, he loses. So it's very straightforward. It's very predictable, and we're just seeing who's going to win the comp at this point.
And that's it. So that's unfortunate. It's we're here, and honestly, I think sometimes the end game does make the season, and this end game being just this way has really not made the season for me. So I really do agree with the fact that this is just this lackluster. And I said it. I've been saying it. It's not hitting for me, and it's predictable. So we're just going to have to wait and see who wins the final part on finale night. And with that being said, we are going live on finale night right after. So make sure you tune in for that. We're still going to be doing some Big Brother coverages because we'll be doing the overall player rating next week. We'll also hopefully be doing interviews and stuff. So just stay tuned for what might come, hopefully. And then on top of that, there's a winter season or holiday special season or something. We don't even know.
Coming.
We don't even know.
Coming.
But
like I'm literally more excited for that announcement on Thursday than I am.
I was just gonna say on Thursday when we go live, tune in to get the tea on that announcement and tune in for another announcement from us, actually, because you're gonna get a Big Brother announcement from Julie Chen and you're gonna get one from Pharaoh Chen. So
Pharaoh Chen movies?
So Pharaoh Chen Bains. So be on the lookout for an announcement for us on Thursday.
Yeah.
It's a special one, guys. Maybe a holiday special. I don't know. Anyways, also, if you've been here with us throughout this entire season, I do want to say thank you so much. You guys, I be giving y'all shit sometimes. I just be joking. I promise. Like, I love you guys.
You be giving them shit?
Sometimes, you know how sometimes I'll be like, oh, the good fans are the ones who gonna give us the dollars and shit when they be I just be joking. But anyways, I love you guys. Thank you so much for engaging with us, liking our stuff, sharing our stuff, sticking with us throughout this entire season. Even if some of y'all not even watching the season no more, y'all still watching us. So I do want to say,
and I love that. I love those comments so much because it's like, oh,
we read y'all comments. We don't just be scrolling and hardening. We literally read them, and sometimes we cry about them. Because y'all be dragging us sometimes. But no, thank you so much for real. And shit, if you made it here and you still ain't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, comment, share, whatever. Please comment, y'all. If y'all are watching us and y'all been watching us for a while or even a little bit and y'all haven't like commented yet, I would love for y'all to comment because I would love to engage a little bit with you guys. Like, I don't know. Let me stop that. Okay. Today, we are going to be getting into we are going to be getting into the final three. We're going to be deep diving as deep as we can because some of these are surface level. We're going to be surface diving into the games of the final three. We're going to go mostly week by week throughout the game and talk about what which each finalist was doing.
Sound it out, baby. Sound it out.
What they were doing throughout the game. We're just going to get into it all or whatever. And boom, I'm ready. Lee, you ready?
I'm ready, girl. Unfortunately, we're here.
We're here with the best.
Starting with Sari. Okay, now Sari's starting this game. I mean, we didn't even know Sari was going to be here.
Girl.
Okay, let's get for real. Let's start with the first finalist for real. Mimi. Now, Mimi.
Lee. Felicia and her mustard seed have made it all the way to the final three. Literally,
Kirsten, we all thought was leaving week one.
I was just going to say that. Literally, I could talk about anybody, and I would prefer to be talking about them. Izzy's game was phenomenal. She went from flip-flopping all. I could literally say about damn near anybody.
Bowie motherfucking Jane. Let's read the stats. I read the stats, so my back's to them. Mother has...
go.
Mother Jane. What's her name? Miranda Bowie Jane Ball. Has 3 HOH wins, settle POV wins, and settle nominations, but she is one of the only few people to go unnominated in a single season. I just read the stats. Y'all want to hear it? It's on Wikipedia, y'all. It says, Bowie Jane is the 10th house guest to never be nominated in a single season. This is following Danielle Reyes, Jason Guy, Jillian from BB Can, Derek Levasseur, Anthony Douglas, Enzo, Cody, Tyshawn, Todrick, and now Bowie motherfucking Jane.
Girl.
Some respect on my mother. I don't know. What can I say?
Okay. Bowie Jane ate it up. I'm sorry. So let's get into her game though. We're gonna rewind. Ooh. We're going to rewind. So foreshadowing. We're going to rewind, though. And to week one of this season. Week one.
Week one was crazy.
Kirsten was still here. Luke got expelled. It was a lot going on. But week one of this season, we're in Bowie Jane's perspective. Let's put ourselves in Bowie Jane's mind. There's a lot of room up there.
Good eye.
Stop. Okay, we gotta get serious. Okay, so week one, there was a lot going on.
This is the most unserious final three.
No,
we have to be serious.
You're truly right. There was a lot going on, but Bowie Jane wasn't in a lot of it. So what happened week one was we'll get more into with Jag and Matt specifically because the entire Family Style Alliance was formed, of course, but Bowie Jane wasn't in that. where she was in is the Bye Bye Bitches, the coalition that was going against this big alliance. So Sari had formed, well, Sari, really Felicia, if we're being honest. But that group of people who were in the comic room had formed an alliance with the Bye Bye Bitches, including Bowie Jane. It was Sari, Felicia, Mimi, Bowie. Heisem ended up, was Heisem in Bye Bye Bitches too?
He was.
Yeah, he ended up getting brought in too. So they all formed an alliance to go against Family Style, which had been ratted out by multiple people already. So throughout this week, the cards had been flipped from the beginning of the week to the end of the week, to where by the end of this week, the professors were forming, which is the bigger alliance with them, which included Red, and they had people on the side, Jared and Cam. By the end of week one, that had already been forming, and the entire house basically was against the remaining leftover people of Family Style. And Bowie Jane sat within that alliance, so that's good.
Yeah, I think at that point specifically it was what Riley, Jag, Blue, and Cameron were the main ones. I feel like that the house at that point was kind of like they're the problem.
Yeah, it was mainly them four. And it was literally the house all with them. But alongside this all happening, also, the alliance was already feeling some type of way about Bowie Jane already in week one. By the end of it, Sari and Izzy, who had been playing 30 miles an hour at that point, had already been able to flip the entire house, and now start talking about how they don't even trust Bowie Jane that much, and they also didn't trust
the
Red
people on their own side.
The people on their own side. So at this point in the game, Bowie Jane is in this alliance, but they don't really trust her that much. Boom. That's how she starts the game off. Very terrible, honestly. Like, not saying she's bad, but it's just she got terrible cards handed to her, not being included in Family Style, and then being hated by her own alliance. It's like,
yeah. And I think I don't think this is all on Bowie Jane, but I do think some of it comes from the fact that what she would do in those earlier weeks, and we kind of discussed this off the podcast, but what she would do in those earlier weeks is she would walk out of rooms when alliances and things were like, really, alliances form based off of connection that you have in the game. I don't think that Felicia, Sari, Mimi, any of these people that Bowie Jane was in an alliance with actually felt like they had a real or genuine connection with Bowie Jane. And this is what we were kind of saying off the podcast. Like, Bowie Jane really doesn't have too many, like, I feel like, deep conversations about herself or with other people. Bowie Jane is kind of always just there.
Yeah.
You know? And that was kind of her place. Honestly, this entire game. I always saw Bowie Jane as a very important piece that would just get picked up, and whoever picked her up would be sitting in the end game, and look where we are. You know? And I just feel like if they were able to connect with her on that level, and I think that the disconnect is that, I mean, this is a lying about her age Australian woman that don't know shit about this game. It's like, I can see how, you probably don't have much in common, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, like, she was just always a player that I feel like what we're seeing, she was going to be. Like, if you didn't have her on your side, she was going to be able to win a competition and eventually just take them out. And that's what she helped Jag and Matt do.
Yeah. I was feeling like, especially at the beginning of the game, seeing Bowie socially, it seemed like she just honestly just isn't that social of a person, which sucks, because if you go in the game and you're not that type of super social butterfly, you get left behind and people start to distrust you, how they were with Bowie Jane. They just genuinely didn't trust her because of nothing she did. She just wasn't as social with them. She didn't sit in that room up under them all day talking shit. Sometimes she did, and they still didn't trust her, but she never really did it to the length that they did. And thinking about it, Bowie Jane really didn't have anybody relatable to her. No one is in her actual age range. She's the only 40-year-old. Everyone is either 50 plus or 30 and below. She was very isolated in that way. And the women who were older are Black women. I mean, and they're not Australian. So I feel like, honestly, when it comes to relatability, Bowie Jane probably had one of the worst chances of this entire cast. There was a lot of young people, and then the old people were literally the same market, like they were two Black women. So it's like, for her, I don't know, there was barely anywhere where she could really go. I feel like the person closest to her age was like Cameron, and she did kind of Cameron and Red, and she kind of had a friendship. I feel like she was just able to relate to them easier, and then she started getting grouped in with them. And it's like, that's not good for you. And that literally led into like week 2 with her. going into week 2, they were still grouping her in with, or they were grouping her even more in with Red and Cameron, and they felt like she wasn't really with their alliance going into week 2, which was unfortunate because it honestly just wasn't true. At this point, Heisem has won the week 2 HOH. He is going to try to dismantle what the remaining bits of the family style alliance. Riley had won the previous HOH. She randomly got out of Kirsten because of that stupid twist where Kirsten was automatically nommed. And now Heisman is like, Riley is the one who's holding them together still. He's going to target Riley. And at this point, all that Bowie Jane is associated with Red and Cameron. She doesn't really have much she can do at this point, but just sit there. Literally.
Yeah. And this is like, she at this point got this stigma on her that she was just never able to shake. Like Sari, Izzy, I mean Mimi, like all of them were under the impression that we have Bowie Jane to an extent, but that she is way more loyal to Red and Cameron. At this point, I remember Izzy and Sari would be having conversations about how Bowie, Cam, Red, and Heisem are going to link up.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a problem for them.
Random
So,
shit.
unfortunately, Bowie was not doing any of this. Bowie was actually very loyal to the professors, to the bye-bye bitches. And what was interesting, though, is that this week, during this week is where some of the issues with Heisem started. Like, people were feeling some type of way. And I remember Bowie pivoting very quickly because she was loyal to the bye-bye bitches. When they started bringing up that we don't necessarily vibe with what Heisem is doing, we may want to target him and things like that. I think Bowie was very quick to kind of be like, I mean, he is kind of annoying, and like she was loyal to the soil.
She was very loyal. She was extremely loyal to the bye-bye bitches at this point. And leading into week 3, Felicia's HOH is when a bunch of stuff started happening. Mm-hmm. And one of those things that pertained to Bowie was that they stopped.
Not much just pertains to Bowie.
They stopped talking, literally. But they stopped talking to Bowie. They literally stopped talking to her as much because they were busy making 75 million alliances, which we'll get more into when we're talking about Jag and Matt. But Sari and them were running the game. They were making multiple different alliances.
If y'all remember this week, this is when they was in the HOH, just
staring at the camera.
The spy cam. Look at Bowie. Look, I bet she gonna talk to Jag and tell him. Blue was over there bringing food and go downstairs. Bowie just went downstairs and told everyone that we was down here. And it's interesting, Felicia, how no one has come to talk to you at all since you've been HOH.
Now Bowie don't want to talk to me this time. She don't want to talk to me this week. That's real.
Maybe I should put Bowie Jane up.
Look at Bowie and Cam.
Maybe I should put up Mimi. Maybe I should put up
That was this week, y'all. That was this week. And Bowie Jane started to notice, and this is when it started getting very slightly interesting with Bowie Jane, because she was picking up on things that I was surprised, and everybody was surprised that she was able to pick up on. And not only did she notice they weren't talking to her, she went to them about it. She went to them and she brought it up to them, and she was like, "Look," she put it on the floor. She said, "Look, I'm working with you guys, and I want to make sure that we're all good to go. And are we all good to go, basically?" And because of this and the fact that they felt like Red and Cameron were working with her to try to build this thing against them, which was not happening, that led to them creating this alliance to basically shut people up. This fake alliance, which was called Legend 25, with literally everybody in the professors in it, plus Matt, right? Literally everybody in the professors plus Matt was in Legend 25. It was created as a way to kind of prevent Bowie Jane from feeling uncomfortable with them. But baby, we'll see how long that lasts, because they definitely are finna do some fucked up shit very soon after this. Yeah. So it really doesn't even matter. I don't even know why they did that. So this is what's up?
I was just gonna say, she was also getting pulled into that thing that Red and Cameron were trying to form at this point. Their little, Caucasian alliance. No shade with them, Corey, Bowie, Matt. Very specific people.
Yeah.
And Bowie was being considered for that. It's very interesting though, because like they never really told Bowie any of those like direct plans that she would be down.
Yeah. When honestly she might have, considering, well, not at this point, because at this point she was so loyal to them. They're so weird for the way they were so
loyal to the bye-bye bitches. I think she would have told them immediately, or just honestly straight up told them like, I'm not doing this.
I'm not doing that. She was super loyal to the bye-bye bitches, even going into this entire like not jury because jury was at a different place, but this entire first 5 weeks, Bowie was simply just very loyal, and she still is loyal to this day, just to a different group of people because
Yeah.
of the way they were treating her. But they were treating her very badly. They weren't including her in anything genuine. They weren't telling her about anything that was going on. And this entire week, they had the power. Felicia was HOH, and she didn't really tell Bowie much about it. They just made the alliance to shut her up. So this is the week they ended up backdooring Heisem, which wasn't good for any of their games, including Bowie Jane, honestly, at this point. But
I was proud of Bowie Jane for like a day or two because it did work. Once she approached them and let them know how she's feeling about being isolated, because they were kind of grouping Bowie Jane and Mimi in the same boat at this point as people
yeah.
who didn't bring them information and talk to too many other people and but looking for ways out. And Bowie Jane kind of just deaded some of those theories, and then they came right back up going to week 4
Mhm.
because that's when Cameron won, and they went right back associating her with them. And it's just like
Yeah.
she could never get that off her back, and it was so annoying because she had a friendship with Red, but Red was also in Bowie Jane's mind in the professor. So I
Mhm.
can have a relationship with Red, and then
Cameron was in Legend 25 at this point. These
at
are
the
people
same,
who they're working with allegedly.
exactly.
So from Bowie's perspective, I could see why she was. First of all, she wasn't even that close to them. But even though she was talking to them and stuff, there shouldn't have been an issue with it. It was just weird the way that they saw Bowie Jane at this point. But yeah, Cameron wins the HOH. He's targeting Jag. He puts up Blue and Jag. And at this point, Bowie Jane is being heavily associated with Cameron. And now Cameron and Red are getting this big, huge target. At this point, they're saying we need to take out Cameron, then Red, and then after that, Bowie Jane. That's how they're feeling this week. But girl, the way they feel week to week literally changed with the blow of the wind, literally. Um, literally. So this was the week that Jag went home 10-0, and the power was used on him. So he's still in the game. By the end of the week, Sari and the Fields family have came up with kind of a pecking order and the way that they want to proceed with the game. And by the end of this week, they feel like, which quickly changes, they feel like Bowie Jane could be in their end game. Mind you, at the beginning of the week, they hated her and they wanted her out after Cameron and Red. By the end of the week, they were thinking she should be in the end game. So
And
that's
it's
just to
honestly
remind y'all how chaotic it was.
very chaotic, but I think that also led to how Bowie Jane gets 0 nominations. And like I said, I think I compared a lot to. I think Matt and Bowie Jane's games are way more comparable than a lot of people give him credit for. I do think that Bowie will never get the respect that Matt gets because Bowie is a woman. She would never be able to get perceived in the way that Matt was being perceived in that game because I think people automatically will see a male who looks like Matt is more useful than an older woman like Bowie Jane in the game. And that's just facts. I don't think
Yeah.
they really saw her useful. They underestimated her. They wanted to bring her to the end because they thought they could just easily beat her. Now, that would have been interesting if Sari Izzy and them kept power and thought bringing Bowie Jane was going to be some walk to the park. Because Mama would have came through winning these mental comps and
Yeah.
it would have been nasty for the girls.
Yeah. I do feel like at this point in the game, Bowie Jane's like thought process and her strategy is limited because she doesn't know the show. But I think what she's thinking is, I just need to not be a threat. I just need to not go on the block. I just need to not be a target. And I think that was her understanding of Big Brother, was not get targeted, which is why she lied about her age and lied about her job. She's thinking, I just need to make sure I'm not a target. I'm not nominated. And I think that's why she was playing so low key, is because that was kind of like her base level understanding. I feel like there is a lot of not super friends, a lot of recruits who aren't fans of the show who come in the game, and I think they just don't be targeted. And you kind of see
it's what Matt and Bowie did. Matt and Bowie did a great, I think, recruit strategy. If you don't know the game too well, you come in, you don't make too many enemies, you don't get nominated, and you get to the end.
Yeah.
Like on paper, I think both of them has flawless games. Really,
pretty good games. It's because I think the concept of Big Brother, if it's simplified, is just don't get targeted. And I think that's kind of how they viewed the game. And it's effective. And it's especially effective if you don't know how to play the game, because no shade, but Bowie Jane wasn't doing much because she didn't know really what to do. She didn't know, let me manipulate this person. Let me run this HOH. Let me make this alliance. And that helped her in this specific season where everyone who was doing stuff was getting targeted. By the littlest of things, even if they were your ally.
It's like it got to a point where, like, I remember this happened a lot, especially when they were because like anytime they were like bring up the allegations with Heisem. It's like, well, Heisem's winning all these competitions. Like, there's an argument for it. Or like Red and Cameron. Like, Cameron is shady. He threw his whole alliance under the bus. Red is having conversations with Cameron and not bringing those conversations back. That is kind of shady. But people like Bowie, like Mimi, who they tried to like pinpoint them as someone who was doing something, they will always come around on them because like they just truthfully aren't doing those things. So like you can't attach falsities to these people when they're not actually doing it. Well, with Jane, I feel like they went a little far with that. Clearly, they bought Mimi a little bit more, but they almost did it to Mimi too. They wanted to blindside her just as much as they did Bowie. So it's like, you know.
So this next part of the game is extremely pivotal for Bowie Jane. This was the pivot for Bowie Jane's entire game. Week 5 and week 6. So starting with week 5, this was Jared's HOH. And they are really done with Bowie Jane. And by the end of this week, Jared is targeting Red. He was targeting Cameron. Cameron won the veto. So now he's targeting Red. And because they think Bowie Jane is with Red and Cameron, they decide they're going to leave Bowie Jane out of this vote to evict Red. Everyone but Bowie and Cameron are going to know about this vote to evict. And this is her alliance, who she's loyal to, who she thinks is with her. And they leave her out of this vote leading into week 6. And it's really just pivotal because we see what happens week 6. So week 5, they leave her out of the vote and she calls them out. Right after the vote, she goes into that comic room where she's been. And she's like,
it's not fair.
It's just not fair. And they're like, well, Bowie Jane, I mean, it's up to you if you want to be with us or if you don't. And she's like, well, I don't think I do because look what just happened.
They gaslit the fuck out of her in this conversation. It was so hilarious. I'm sorry. And then here goes Miss Felicia. And you know what you can do now? Because see, now you're seen as on the other side. You're seen as with Cameron. So now that you can go in the HO. She's like, well, I don't know I want to do that. But you have to. It was so sick. And honestly, it just wasn't. It was at the end of the day. Now we're looking in retrospect. We're looking at the final 3. We're seeing that Bowie is still here above all of them. It just was not smart to do that. I mean, that week they almost left Felicia and Mimi out of it. They told Mimi and Felicia last minute that the vote was flipping. It wouldn't have been hard to tell Bowie Jane the same thing, but they assumed Bowie Jane was loyal to the soil to Red and Cameron, which she wasn't. She was loyal to the bye-bye bitches, and she told them, if you had told me, I wouldn't have cared. I just need you to tell me. Exactly. And I feel like this is like, we're not getting much from Bowie Jane, but honestly, there's so much just mismanagement of Bowie Jane. No one has tried to reach out. People assumed, like, people who were not in the professors and things like that assumed Bowie Jane was just loyal to them and they didn't really even try. And then the professors had Bowie Jane, but they didn't give a fuck about her at all. Yeah. So it's just like, after this week, like, you really just see how Jag and Matt treat her compared to the other people in the house. And that's how they're really able to get her because, I mean, she just got backstabbed by all of these other people. And then no one else, like, no one sees Bowie Jane as an actual player. And, like, that's where it's just, like, a huge mistake because she's here. Like, you can't see someone who's actively in the game as a non-entity. Like, she's there. She's not evicted. So, I don't know why they felt like... I don't know why they were so okay with doing this. Because it's not like they were going to leave Bowie out of the vote and then get her out sometime soon. They had no intention of targeting Bowie. So, you just thought Bowie was going to be okay with it? Like, I don't get that.
This is a point in the game where I realized that Bowie Jane is actually she's just smart. She's just not stupid. She understands her place. She already had an inkling that they didn't like her when she approached them about it. And now that this happened, she was really over it, like genuinely over them. She didn't like them. She didn't trust them anymore. And what's interesting is that usually people who seem like they're playing like Bowie Jane, which is like you're not doing anything and you're just a ditz. Like, for example, Dan and Danielle and BB14, when Dan kept nominating Danielle and backstabbing her and leaving her out of votes and nominating her allies and voting out shit, Danielle continuously went back to him over and over again and didn't care. And it's like, you would think Bowie Jane...
oh my God. That was one time Danielle was like, she was like, how many times do I have to prove to you that I'm loyal to you? And it's just like, what is this abusive relationship? I cannot do it.
Weird. But it's archetypes like Danielle that just go back to the people who abuse them in the game. And would have thought Bowie Jane would have been that, but this was a clear indication that she's just not that type of player.
It's not giving
But
that.
Bowie Jane is definitely smart. She knows what she's doing. She understands her place, and I think that this week and then her joining the vote flip next week are really indicators that Bowie Jane is just as deserving to win this game as everybody else in this final three. 100%. She didn't just sit here and stick with people stupidly that didn't like her. That happens so many times in Big Brother where people stick with people who don't like them, who aren't working with them.
Jag
I mean,
almost
all stars were doing it in BB22. All stars were sticking with people who weren't even loyal to them in BB22, and Bowie Jane did not do it. And it's like, to me, it's like that shows that she has something within her that is actually an indication of a good player. So I mean, I love it for her. I do. So she gets left out of the vote, and then going into week 6, Cameron wins the HOH, and he makes a big move, and he nominates Felicia and Izzy, who were two people at the top of this game. And
Bowie Jane is the safest person in the house at this
Bowie
point.
Jane is now
The
the
girls
safest
are
person
mad about it.
Bowie Jane is now the safest person in the house at this point, like, because this power structure, even if Felicia just goes home, it's being destroyed a little bit. It really is. It's getting busted open. And this is when the game flips on its entirety. From up until this point, this first 6 weeks, the game was being run by the Fields family: Sheree, Izzy, Felicia, Jared, that group of people.
And
they had their people on the outside. They had multiple alliances. They had the 7 Deadly Sins, including Blue and Jag and Matt over here. They had Legend 25 covering Cameron Red and Bowie Jane, who they just turned.
Crossroads with Corey.
They had Crossroads with Corey, and they had that other For Real with American.
The Brown Sugar Babes.
Then they had the Brown Sugar Babes. So they had all of their bases covered.
Onions and apples. And
as soon as they turned on one of those bases by leaving Bowie and Cam out of the vote, and Cam won the HOH, it turned on them. So at this point, the game is down.
And it was a domino effect. And then we have Jared mismanaging Corey on this side.
It was so much stuff that happened to lead to this. And eventually, Jared mismanages Corey. And Corey decides that he is going to expose all of the information that he's been getting from the Crossroads Alliance with him, Izzy, Sheree, and Jared. That alliance had been telling Corey, Izzy and Jared specifically, had been telling Corey about these sub-alliances. So Corey knew about the 7 Deadly Sins that had Jag, Matt, and Blue in it. He also knew about For Real that had him and America in it. He also knew about the Brown Sugar Babes with Mimi and Felicia. So he knew about all of their fake alliances that they had, and he used that in order to flip the vote to vote out Izzy and get the entire house to be against that group of people: Sheree, Izzy, Felicia, and Jared. So that is what happened. And when Bowie was told about the plan after America, Corey, Jag, and Matt kind of agreed onto it, Bowie was told about it, and she was very on board.
Damn.
She was super excited.
Here. She was like, yeah, this is
it's crazy because she was very loyal to them. And even at this point, before the flip, it seemed like she was still loyal to Sheree. People were thinking she's still loyal to Sheree, but it wasn't true. It's clear that she was lying to Sheree's face a little bit, because she wasn't that loyal to her, because she just flipped the vote on her and didn't care. So that's another indication of Bowie Jane was purposefully lying to Sheree, pretending to be loyal to her. In reality, she was not. And she was down with this flip. And this flip was amazing for her game, because now people value her after this flip.
And exactly. And this is where it gets really good for her, because, they basically make this kind of, faux alliance going into next week, because basically the votes who are keeping Felicia, they're kind of deciding to stick with each other. But even when you kind of break that down a little bit more, it was always everyone kind of just pulling in Bowie to an extent. Like Corey in America and Matt and Jag at this point both felt like they had Bowie as some type of third because of this flip and her being so down with it. And Bowie, she just wanted a group that actually trusted her and wanted to work with her at this point. She was like a lost puppy child. She was going to be loyal to anybody walking. And they scooped her up. And then people who mainly scooped her up, who actually did work with her, was Matt and Jag. Like, those slowly started to become her people. And I mean, it's very clear that once Bowie Jane is loyal to a group of people, I think she's going to stay loyal until proven otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. So what I loved about Bowie this week also was the blow up that happened with Jared and Corey, where Jared and Corey were debating because Corey had exposed his game. Jared made up a lie about Jag in order to get that information out that they were voting out Izzy. And during this time, they were basically arguing about the vote, about how Izzy was going home and how Corey was saying that Jared was in a bunch of alliances, and Sari was too. So in this conversation, Bowie Jane is in the room. How is she in the room again? Don't remember. But Bowie Jane is in that
Jared
room.
wanted her there as a witness. I don't know why Jared was calling all of these people who could easily poke holes in his story. Like it was such a weird tactic, but we moved.
So Bowie Jane was in the room when the argument was happening, and Sari came in also. So at the point that Sari came in, Sari was doing some work to try to divert the attention, and she's like, well, those alliances, what alliances are you talking about? And Sari's kind of trying to play dumb and coy. And every time Sari tries to mention something to pretend that she wasn't doing all of this, Bowie Jane is ready to speak and say, well, no, Sari, what we're talking about actually is all the alliances you guys are in. And Sari was like, well, everybody raise your hand if you're in multiple alliances. And Bowie Jane didn't raise her hand. And Sari's like, well, you were in multiple alliances. It's Bowie's like, those are the same people. You're in alliances with different people. And I think that's the issue.
Or the part where it was like, it's like the cookout. You have a group and then you have other alliances outside. And Bowie was like, but the difference with the cookout, right, is that they knew about the other alliance.
They knew about
I didn't know about any of the other.
So she was just clocking. She was clocking at every turn in that room, and her performance in that room, it's like she knows she's not just a dud. She knew what the fuck was going on. Actually,
she was there to a certain extent. Yeah, for sure.
To a certain extent. So love that for her. And this kind of like just catapulted into her game, ending up in this final three that she's in at this point. Because after this week, when Cameron ends up taking out Izzy is gone. Jared wins HOH and he fucks it up because he ends up taking out Cameron, who wasn't even in the group discussion about this new group that's forming with with Jag, Matt, Comerica, Bowie Jane. All of them were getting together. Jared ends up taking out Cameron, and it's a double eviction. And Corey is able to take out Jared, which really stamps and solidifies the fact that this group is basically done with, except it's the zombie week. So there's a delay. But Jared ends up going home anyways during that delay. Throughout this entire time, these 2 weeks, Bowie Jane is really just solidifying her middle ground because Matt and Jag think she's with them, and they're actually putting in work to make sure she's with them. And she's getting very close to this group of three with Matt and Jag. And they also want Cameron they're also working with Cameron to an extent at this point. And Corey and America just think they have Bowie Jane a little bit at this point. And so Bowie Jane is in a really, really good position going towards this end game. And these next couple of weeks, it's basically Jag, Bowie Jane, and Matt gaining control of the game because Cameron wins HOH. They run it, make sure he takes out one of their numbers. Bowie wins the next one. And when Bowie wins her first HOH, it's a pivotal moment for her because she wins her first HOH, and it's kind of a question because Matt and Jag want Cameron to go. Mm-hmm. But Bowie and Cameron had a great relationship, and they've been very closely aligned in this game ever since they were forced together, basically, at the beginning of the game. And then they were both left out of the vote. So this is the moment where it's like, Bowie, what you gonna do, girl? Like, are you going to because I wasn't even thinking of that. Are you going to take out Cameron or not? Like, are you going to do that or not? And I remember this week initially, she said she wasn't going to do it. Initially, she was like, I really want to nominate Felicia and Sari, and I want Sari to go because Sari is the smartest person in this house, which is a clock. Which is a clock. So at this point, she wanted Sari to go, but Matt and Jag wanted her to make sure Cameron went home. She made sure they gave her an excuse, and then she ended up doing it. But I don't know. Like, I can't say it was a bad move because she's in final three.
I know, it's just, and that's the thing. It's like at the end of the day, things like we can blame other people in the game for their perception of Bowie, and we can list all of these reasons, maybe because she's a woman and things like that. But at the same time, at some point, I think the player themselves also kind of have to take some of the accountability as well. Bowie Jane was aware of how she could have possibly been perceived, especially the way she talks to Jag about the end game versus sitting with Matt. And I think that she should have started doing things to where that perception maybe wouldn't be there. Like she virtually had no relationship with America separately or Blue separately, and then other than the alliance she had with Serene and them in the beginning, that went nowhere after they flipped on her. Like her only allegiance and real connections in the game, I feel like after Zombie Week was Jag, Matt, and Cameron. And it's like the other people in the game, it felt I don't know, I don't understand the emotion. I guess, you're just mad. Everyone has the right to be mad. But like they didn't like Bowie. They flipped on Bowie. And then Bowie started basically running the game with Jag and Matt, and then hated Bowie even more. And it's like, well, like she can't win for losing, but like Bowie, if you want to win, you have to go in there and change their mind. You have to go talk like a Taylor Hale, Go speak to them, make them think that you have your own game. And I think that's just what it is with Bowie Jane. It's so obvious. Like everyone assumed Bowie Jane was close with Cameron. That was a perception or an assumption since the beginning of the game. So her taking out Cameron, it looks like Jag and Matt's game. Her only connections with this point is with Jag and Matt. There was no way that would not be seen as someone else's move. And I think that she really just did no work in trying to back it up in other ways. Like I said, she has no real social connection with anyone else. And I think that's her main issue. Like, I think in retrospect, it's fine that she made the move, but you have to make the move and then own it to that extent. I feel like she obviously really didn't even own it. Like, Cameron wasn't really even mad with Bowie like that. He was more mad at Jag and Matt because he knew this was Jag and Matt's move. When they discussed this move, they say it was Jag and Matt who did it because it was Jag and Matt.
Cameron goes to the jury respecting Jag. And not respecting Bowie at all. And I think this was a mistake because her initial thought was correct. You should just target Sari or Felicia at this point. I think that would have been fine for her too. That's the thing. Either way, I think Jag, Bowie, Jane, and Matt would still be a 3, regardless of what she did at this point. The only difference is Cameron might be able to be here, who's a thorn in Jag and Matt's side, possibly able to take out Jag or Matt, leaving her in a different position. But I don't know if this different position would have been. It's hard because Bowie Jane's perception has just been so not good.
But that's Cameron's perception probably would be worse if he's in the game longer. He's pissed. I don't think the way they don't respect Jag, even though he's winning everything, is the same way they would not respect Cameron. It would be even worse with Cameron.
But even worse,
hated him. So it could be a situation where like she's sitting next to Final 2 with Cameron.
And they just don't respect him so much, and they respect her. But that's the thing. Like I feel like she wasn't. The issue with Bowie Jane's game is that she just cares about getting to the end with her group of people that she's loyal to. It's giving Christmas, babe.
She wouldn't went all the way to the end with the bye-bye bitches. I feel
it's giving Christmas. She's loyal to a motherfucking fault. She's going to the end with the alliance that she's with. Period. And because of or the person she's aligned with the most, because at this point now she's just mostly aligned with Jag, so she doesn't care about anybody else but Jag. But it's like, girl, you need to care about your own game in certain ways. So this week it kind of showed that, okay, girl, like you didn't have to just do what they wanted, and then you didn't have to not get any credit for it, and you did. And then after this, it kind of just gives that for the rest of the season for her. Next week, Jag wins the invisible HOH. He wants to pawn her. She says no, so she eats that up.
And I love that move from her because a lot of people you would like Bowie Jane gives perpetual pawn. Like she gives me block star. Like I'm very shocked that she has not been nominated at all. Yep. But it's moments like this where like I'm gonna put you up. No, the fuck you're not. Period. No, you're not. Like she literally told him like, what are you doing? Like stop being a pussy. Put them up. You're not putting me up. And it literally forced his hand. Like it got Jag in a situation where he's messing up his own jury management because she is not allowing him to just use her in that way. Like, no, I just think that like, because like even Jag and Matt made this comparison. Like, oh, we're like Derek and Cody and she's our Victoria. Like, no, she's not. Because they was pawning Victoria.
Victoria was 9
Bowie Jane said, y'all gonna see me as an active, equal member in this alliance. I'm not going up. There's no reason for me to go up.
Yep. And that eats. And it's honestly true. And
I wish more people would do that. Like, no shade, Jag, earlier in this season, girl.
We're gonna get into it. So after Jag wins the invisible HOH, the next week he wins again, literally. And that week it's literally the same thing. Like they're just steamrolling at this point, maybe. Bowie Jane wins the double right after that. And at the double, people were saying Bowie Jane should have targeted Jag and Matt. She ended up targeting America. She stuck with her guns with Jag and Matt. She stuck with her alliance. And she could have taken out Jag at this point. Matt won veto. If she non Jag and Matt, Jag would have went home at the double. How do you feel about that? No,
I
think about
mean, the way Matt is loyal to Sari, I've been saying this. I think if Jag gets cut, Matt would just really defer to Sari. At that point, she probably gets targeted. If Jag goes home, people left in the game would be America, Matt, Sari, Felicia. I think they look at Bowie after that.
Yeah,
So it at this point in the game, it really there was no point to go against the two people that's taking her to
that's
the
what
final
works
three.
with you. And it's hard because Felicia, Sari, and honestly America
Have
hadn't
no relationship with
had
her.
no relationship with Bojan, and they never cared to really.
Yeah,
They actually did the opposite, which was ruin their relationships with her or ignore her completely. So she didn't have any reason to do so, to
yeah,
not nominate them. And you're probably right. Matt wins the HOHOH, and he probably targets her right after that. She probably goes
literally.
home. She didn't win the veto. So it's like, honestly,
There are no votes to keep her if she stays in the block.
yeah. So honestly, it's Teach. That wouldn't have been a good move. So after this, what is this? The last 3 weeks. These last 3 weeks, y'all, they've just won. Matt wins. Bowie Jane wins the double. Then Matt wins the HOH, takes out Sari, which was good for Bowie Jane. And Bowie Jane was a part of the plan with Jag to make sure that Sari went home. I will say it was Jag's idea, but Bowie Jane was backing it up, and they both were in the
That,
room when
I
they
was
were
gonna
giving
say
it to Matt.
this is when the Bowie and Jag finals really started forming.
Yep, the Bowie and Jag final two. Because Jag approached her. That's the thing. It's the another issue with Bowie Jane's game, which is similar to Matt's issue in the game, is that she's not active. She doesn't do a lot of strategic movement herself. It's other people approaching her. And at this point, Jag said, "We're taking out Cerise." She said, "Yes, sir." Jag said, "We're going to final two." She said, "Yes, sir."
Mhm.
She wins the next HOH. Jag says, "You're not nominating me." She says, "Yes, sir." And Jag says, "I'm voting out Matt." She said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Never mind." She says, "Yes, sir." And that's the
Basically,
issue. And that's the issue is that every these last 3 weeks, Jag has just been running her every thought. And that's where it's like, damn. And it's because she's so loyal to him. Because what we noticed, we went through the season, when she's not loyal to them, she doesn't give a fuck. When she wasn't loyal to Sari, she didn't care. She's flipping on her.
yeah,
But when she is loyal to them, is when she is loyal to a extreme fault. And that is her, I feel like her issue
it's
in
to her detriment. But like, it's still the thing is, it still gags me in a way too because, like I would say, it's very impressive that I feel like Jag was able to kind of flip Bowie from Matt in this way. Like I at least saw them as like an equal three, or maybe even she was more Matt's person. But Jag did a good job of flipping her, and also it's to some credit to her is because both of them equally realized that they probably can't beat Matt. And this is
yeah,
because the information got out that, of course, Corey saw Matt as a better player, and then Blue was bitter at Jag. They just thought, well, I mean, clearly Bowie and Jag, everyone's going to hate us, so we might as well take each other. And I think that's a thought that Bowie actually had herself. And in the Final Four scenario, like when Jag was hinting at taking out Matt, I was thinking, oh, like Bowie's not going to take this well, but Bowie was basically
she
okay
was
with it.
down
Like,
for
oh,
the ride.
so like she wasn't like, oh, okay, do it, but like it gave like if you want to do it, I'm fine with it. And it's like, okay, like
Mhm.
Bowie definitely thinks to a certain I think that it's like she does have a strategic acumen somewhere in there. It really
Yeah.
is. It's just I don't think she's a fan. I don't think her personality type fits the game that she's in because she's also about loyalty and integrity and honor and trust and all the other bullshit, which that's just so not Big Brother. Like you got to get over
Mhm.
that. And I think, like you said, her loyalty to a fault is really what gets the best of her. And that's what's gonna have her lose this game, really.
How do you
Because
think her chances are to win? Do you think she can win?
no, there's no way Bowie Jane is winning. I think it's perception. I think it's a perception issue. But at the same time, I do think there is some strategic movement, social movement that she could have done to secure her win. Because, like I said, I think perception plays a part. She'll never get perceived in this game the same way Matt does, even though they're playing very similarly. But at some point, you also have to do that work to make sure that you're seen on that level. You know what I mean? And I don't think she did that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think she has a chance to win. I don't think she did the work to make sure she was perceived correctly because she's not really a fan. I will say because Bowie Jane not being a fan, I don't think her game was that bad at all. I wouldn't think a win if Bowie Jane won against Matt or Jag, I wouldn't be upset, and I wouldn't say that it's they're getting snubbed. I would say that she played a good enough game to win this season for sure. She won 3 HOHs. She made sure she was never nominated on the block, and those there were things that she did in order to do that, and she was able to pivot. She was malleable. When people talk about this game and they say, "What's one quality you need in the Big Brother house?" It's the ability to adapt, and Bowie Jane has adapted. She went from working with Sari and Felicia and Red, the oldest people in the house, to working with Jag and Matt, two young athletic men. And at the end of the day, whether she was brought in or whatever, she was a part of it. She is a part of this mafia that is in the final three. So at the end of the day, she did it. She did what she needed to do. So I think her chances are very, very small. I don't think she's really going to win this game, but I don't think her game was just tremendously terrible, and I don't think it was that worse than the other two people in final three. Honestly, boom. I don't think I would ever vote for Bowie Jane.
Mm-hmm.
In this
definitely not in this story. It's just it would
in this scenario, but I don't know. She's someone who she was interesting, I guess, for what she was. But any more thoughts on Bowie Jane?
No, let's get it going, girl.
Period. Let's get into motherfucking Matt.
Matthew stats.
Matthew stats.
The girls who can't see it. Matt has uno HOH, dos POV, and uno nominee. Bowie Jane has 0. Clock it.
Lee is such a hater.
I ain't gonna do no hating because we had to go through some of my notes for this, and I was like, I've been really giving Matt a consistently high score. So, but like I said, I think I definitely just get caught up in the Jag versus Matt debate. But even so, I have been giving Matt a consistently higher score because he has consistently been in a better position. So I can't even hate that much overall. I just don't like the Jag bashing, and it's had Jag or not.
Period.
Let it go.
All right, let's get into it. Period. So we went through the season once. If we gonna go through the season again, but we gonna get it going. How about that, y'all? Thank you. So boom, we started off this season, and in Matt's POV, rewind again, y'all, and put yourself in Matt's position. Not doing that. So week 1, but no, for real. When we started off the week 1, the royal family style was formed. And when family style was formed, Matt was included in the center of that, which was the handful. Mm-hmm. This only lasted 2-3 days because it got exploded by Sari and her Fields family, honestly. And when that happened, these first 2 weeks, honestly, Matt was just simply not included. Mm-hmm. He was left out of the structure. He didn't have really any close ways to go because Jag was very tied to Blue and Riley. And not really him. He didn't even have
group with Luke. Remember those days?
Oh, he was grouped with Luke week 1.
Hard duo.
He was grouped with Luke week 1, and then when he stopped being grouped with Luke, he just wasn't grouped with anyone. He was just there, honestly. Mm-hmm. He was just there, and there was an adjustment period. I remember him talking about how he was adjusting to the fact that there were so many group conversations. He literally couldn't hear anything that was going on. He was just walking around the house. So these first 2 weeks, it was an adjustment period from him and for his game because he literally wasn't doing anything. Within
also in this week is when he fell in love with Riley because the only week she was in the game.
Here we go. He did fall in love with Riley, unfortunately. Well, I guess great for him.
Well, he says because she's the only one that would take time to, speak to him one-on-one and explain things to him, which was cute. It was cute.
You know what? I hate to cap for him. I'm not trying to cap, but when I was writing my notes down and I was talking about him not doing anything, I forgot about the issues with him with his hearing. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm talking about it, it's like I kind of give him a little bit more grace for not doing anything because he literally could not hear anything that was going on.
I think he got a little bit more. He never got too active. But he got a little bit more, like when he got into his rat floater bag.
His groove.
He was talking to everybody.
That was his groove. It was more one-on-one conversations around that time of the game, too. Because at the beginning, everyone really talked. Even when they were forming these alliances, it was a bunch of group.
Yeah, Matt was just there. We would realize that, like, Matt was actively not catching all of the information. which is
Yeah.
like
He
crazy.
would sit in an entire meeting, an alliance meeting, and he would need and Riley was explaining it to him, but he would need someone to literally explain what happened throughout that entire hour of conversation, which sucks. It honestly does suck, but luckily he was able to catch on eventually. But yeah, these first 2 weeks it wasn't much. He really couldn't do much because Cerise was running the game, and he was just left out of all of that. And it wasn't until Riley went home and was evicted that his game picked up because
I like
Riley.
the transition into that because Heisen wanted Riley to go, and that week when she was nominated next to Cameron, like I feel like Jag, Blue, and Matt, like they were really putting their games on the line to try and make sure Riley was staying. And this is when because Sari, Izzy, and them wanted to target Heisen, they were entertaining working with Matt, Blue, and Jag. So I feel like that's definitely when they started to pick it up a little bit more, and that's when his connection
Mhm.
with the Sari and Jared, Izzy, and them all kind of started.
Yeah, and this was also the time when Sari was working or pretending. I don't remember. She actually wanted to save Riley at the time. So when Sari actually wanted to save Riley, Riley was letting Sari know that she only trusted Matt and Jag. Riley let Matt know that she only trusted Jag and Sari, and she let Jag know Matt and Sari. So the three of them were all told by Riley that they should work together and that they're the only three people that they trust. And that alongside with Cherie actually wanting Riley to stay at the moment, it gave Matt a connection, like you said. And leading into week 3, when Felicia wins the HOH, right at the end after Riley gets evicted, that night, Cherie, Jag, and Matt have a discussion about how they want to agree to kind of work together and have each other's back because they're all fucking with Riley, right? Period. So this is when his game kind of picks up. Week 3 is when Seven Deadly Sins was created. It was him, Jag, Blue, and then literally Cerie's entire alliance, Cerie, Jared,
Izzy,
Izzy,
Felicia.
and Felicia. So they create the Seven Deadly Sins, and Matt becomes a Fields. This is when Matt is in his Matt Fields era. These
Yeah.
next couple of weeks, he's in his Matt Fields era.
This is when the internet, he had y'all
In a chokehold, bitch.
girl. It took until him literally nominating this woman and letting her go home for y'all to finally go
At the end of Final Jam was when y'all were over that chokehold that Matt had
Real
y'all
ones
in.
always knew. He never deserved the Fields family name.
Period. It was crazy. So he was a Fields at this point. Cameron, we talked about it earlier. Cameron and Red were trying to make this coalition of white people, and Matt was included. Matt went ahead and snitched to his mother, Cerie.
And this is when we really saw that, okay, Matt got his
Yeah.
own mindset. Because I remember when Red and Cameron first brought that information to Matt, Matt didn't even tell Jag. Jag had asked him, what was Cameron and Red talking about? Oh, they were talking about Mimi
Made a
saying that she would
lie.
target you and me. And Jag was like, why would Mimi tell Cameron that? They probably Red and Cameron that. Like, they probably lying to you. Like, duh. And he was like, oh, got caught the fuck up. But like, we saw that he had his own game. Like, he had his own intentions. And I really enjoyed that at that point.
Because it's kind of similar with Bowie. I kind of thought something of her, and she proved me wrong. With Matt, I thought Matt would be the type of player to be loyal to a fault. He's just going to tell everybody he's with everything he gets, or he's not going to. I didn't think Matt would withhold information ever in this game. I did not think he had honestly, I didn't think he had the game sense to withhold information from anybody. And when he didn't tell Jag this information, I was impressed. What I wasn't sure about was him telling Cerie everything. But even then, I was like, it's not that bad of an issue because Corey had been doing the same thing. And that was why Corey was in such a good position. And when Matt started doing this, these next couple of weeks, Matt started taking Corey's position a little bit in this power structure. It became Cerie for like 2 weeks. It was Cerie, Felicia, Jared, Izzy, and Matt, and it was getting very interesting how ingratiated he was becoming with
and
this.
I think it was definitely with like I think Cerie, she values people who bring their information, and he was running that shit back. Okay, like it was nothing. Any conversation. Why didn't he just said this, and this?
and not just Cerie. Everybody in the house was thinking they could just run Matt. They could just get anything from him from every corner. So this really increased his position a lot.
The only person who had him clocked was like Corey at this point. I remember Corey was the only one walking around like, y'all are all saying you can trust Matt. So one of y'all can't. Like, wake up.
So week 4, week 4 was big for Matt too, because this is the week that he was going to lose an ally, Jag. Jag was one of his closest allies. And then on the other side, it was Suri and his position in the Suri Fields family. And he ends up winning the power. And the power is to allow him to stop the eviction vote. And this week he decides to use it. He approaches Suri. He says, I think I should use it. Suri does not stop him and arguably loses the game right here. This is the week, the move that probably lost Suri Fields the game.
They should have let Jag ass go.
Should have let his ass, and I can't even say they because it was just Suri. No one else knew. Suri should have let Jag. Oh, Jared knew, but he wasn't gonna do anything. Suri should have let Jag ass go, but she didn't. She allowed Matt to use the veto on Jag, and I mean the power on Jag. And honestly, this probably was, in hindsight, if
do you
Jag
think if Suri told him not to do it, that he would not do it? Because I do think he wanted to use it. And she says at the exit, like she just felt like he was going to do it regardless.
And that's the thing. It sucks because we didn't see that on feeds, but I can see he did seem like he wanted to use it. He approached her with it. He was very happy about it. So I can see why she didn't want to push back. But I do think if Suri pushed back, he would have folded. He's easily foldable. He's very impressionable.
Like a shirt, bitch.
To this day, he let Suri go home. So I think definitely he would have let Jag go home if Suri would have pushed it. So I think there's a potential that if Suri pushed it, that he wouldn't have used it, but she didn't. And what I will say about Matt, well, maybe not what I will say, but what this shows me is that if someone isn't going to try to convince him, he still will do his own thing. I think, for example, later on when he wanted Corey gone, if Jag didn't push back, Corey probably would have ended up going that week that he wanted Corey.
Definitely.
And it was only because someone else pushed against him. So I think that's kind of interesting. This was the only moment we saw Matt do what he wanted to do. And it's because he didn't get any pushback. So, I mean, hey, he did it. There was some balls in this move a little bit.
And I mean, and Jack Stan definitely helps Matt. I mean, he's in Final 3, probably potentially been the winning game.
Probably he's winning the game.
And I don't 100% know, because while he was getting pulled into like the Fields family, he wasn't Fields. He was still listed as a potential target. I don't know if the Fields family, specifically probably to even just protect Jared at that point, would have let Matt get too far. Yeah. Whereas with Jag being here, I mean, he's in Final 3.
Yeah. So this put him in a very good position going into these next 2 weeks, because he was basically in between. He had Jag on one end. He had Jag in blue and the remnants of Family Style, which they were literally all there except Riley at this point still. And then on the other side, he had the Suri Fields family, because they still trusted him. They still wanted to work with him. So he was in a very good position.
No one is touching Matt. I mean,
no one's touching Matt
this entire game.
Period, honestly. And that lasts between week 5 when Jared wins HOH and takes out Red, and then in week 6 when the flip happens. But before the flip happens, I will say, with the Jag and Red vote, what I didn't like about Matt that week was it was very it showed us that he was going to allow Jag to go home after using his power. He used this big ass power on Jag, and he didn't put any pushback in the fact that Jared was nomming Jag. And I guess it's I guess he just doesn't push back. He doesn't do that. That's not how he plays the game. And
if anyone ever argues a different perspective than his, like he just submits, like 100%. Like he'll drop like little things that clearly you can tell he doesn't want it, but after a few more goals, he's like, "Well, okay."
Yeah, literally, and that's not good, and that wasn't good, because Jag could have just went home this week, because he put no work in preventing that from happening at all. He just let Jag be nominated as a replacement, but luckily Red went home for him. And then week 6 was the week that Cameron wins HOH and the vote flips on Izzy. And what's interesting about this is Matt was not just aligned with Suri and then pivoted. Matt was up Suri's entire ass. Seemingly though, because clearly that wasn't that true. And I think that's the interesting part about Matt's game. I don't think Matt is a super phenomenal player like some people might say, but I do think it's interesting that Matt was so far up Suri's ass, and when this flip was approached to him, he pivoted, because even though it's just he probably is just going where the majority of people are going, it's interesting how fast he was able to do that. It was like no
Mhm.
hesitation. It was almost as if he was never loyal to Suri, just like that in this moment. And then the next week he's back loyal to her. So it's like, dang, like how are you able to turn that off so fast and like kind of transition? I felt like that was interesting because at this moment, they told him they exposed all the information, the same information Corey exposed to everybody in the house. They exposed it, and then Matt went along with the flip. So they flipped on Izzy. Izzy goes home, and then going into this next week, Matt is able to reconcile his relationship with Jared and Sari. Even though he was a part of the flip, they press him at the beginning of this week. They press him right after the vote, and they're like, "Well, Matt, you didn't tell us that everybody voted for you," and he didn't take that well. But throughout this week, he's still pretending to be cool with Jared Sari. He ends up in the Final Four deal with Blue, Jared, Sari, and him because they still trust Matt, even though they don't trust anybody else who flipped. They still trust Matt.
Yeah.
Um, so
I mean,
that was
that's a good
good.
position for him to be in. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
he's definitely. I think that he's great at being really. I mean, for lack of better words, the fakest one in the house. Like,
Yep.
he's great at playing in people's faces. Like you, and honestly, it's a game that I mean, I don't know why more people are not doing. Honestly, like,
Yep.
is it that hard to just pretend?
Because
Like, all you have to do,
yeah,
pretend.
because I will say, Jared and Sari and them, they pressed a lot of people, and everyone they press, the person gets mad at them and they kind of get upset and they get annoyed that they're pressing with them. Matt was annoyed to their back, behind their back. When they were pressing him, he sat there and he was like, "I'm sorry, and I didn't mean to do." And then when he left the game and when he left the room, he was ranting all night about how they pressed him and he was annoyed by it. And it's like he was the only one of the only people who pretend in front of their face, just pretend.
Yeah.
So that's how he approached that, and because of that, his position pre-flip and post-flip only shifted positively even more because he was already in a good position because everyone was wanting to work with him. After it, everyone still wanted to work with him. He was still in the Final Four with Jared and Sari and them, and he was still good with Jag and Matt. But now, with Jag and Corey in America, but now the people who he can actually go to the end game with are now going to be able to pick up those pieces and start running the game. And that's what happens after this. After this, Jared, it's the double where Jared fucks up and then Jared goes home. We get the boring ass zombie week. And for the rest of the game, really, they have control. And this is where we start to see what is Matt going to do
Yeah.
with this control. Starting with Cameron's HOH.
And I really just did not like this week at all.
Oh no, here go Leon. No.
Because well, like, and like we were. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about how he is a self-interested person. Because like you're right, everything you're saying is correct about him. Like I think that we assumed that he was going to be a certain way at Airhead that just allowed people to just run him and make him do certain things. We saw that he had his own self-interest, and we saw that he kind of acted in it a little bit when there were more people in the game and there was more things happening. Once things started to simplify a little bit, and there was no, I think like you could only be so much under the radar. Like, you know what I mean? Like the side once Cameron came back in the game, like the sides were open. It was very obvious that like even though he had a relationship with Sari, he was with Bowie and Jag, and even at that point, Cameron. You know, so it's like I just wish that he would have took the game into his hands at that point because this week he wanted Corey to go. He was really strong, hell bent on that, and Jag pushed against it, and Matt was like, I mean, that's fine. And because the type of game that Matt is playing, he was fine no matter what happened, regardless of it. But I just think, I mean, he's risked by being so submissive over these next few weeks. He's risked Jag building a pretty impressive resume, not just on comp wins, but influence, actual power as a player. And Matt, I mean, all he really has is the social. I feel like at this point, and while Jag kind of has the competitive and the strategic a little bit more than a Matt, in my opinion. Now, some people, I don't think Corey agrees, type shit, but that's just how I see it from my perception. But also, it's like the fact that there's even a consideration that I think Jack can beat him, it shows that is what's true. I don't think that there should be any like the type of game that Matt was playing versus Jack up until this point. There really shouldn't have been an option. Like Matt should have been just sitting and skating to the end. And I just feel like he allowed the agency, the power that he could have possessed, it just kind of gave it to Jack. And I didn't like it.
What is interesting about this week about when it comes to Matt's game that I didn't really think about until now is a lot of Matt's decisions in this end game, it's just because Jag wants it or because he's convinced. But what's interesting about this week is Jag never wanted Corey to go. And it kind of makes me realize that Matt has a strategic mind. He just doesn't do anything with it because he thought on his own that Corey should go better and that would be better for his game. And he just didn't do anything with it. And it's like, that shows you can be strategic. You have like the capabilities of being strategic and knowing what's best for your game. You just don't do it, which is probably even worse. And I think that's what's frustrating about his game. That's what's frustrating about it.
Because he could have made it happen, and and it wouldn't have took that much social capital to do it. Like
Cameron wanted to do it always.
Cameron was asking Matt, "Should I do this?" And Matt was like, "I don't know. No, I mean,
Matt was actually saying
Jag in the room. Let's see what Jag wants."
He was actually saying yes to Cam's face, and then when Jag came in the room, he started saying what Jag was saying, which was no. So it's even when he was talking to Cam, he said yes. When he was talking to himself, he said yes. And when Jag came in and told him something differently, he said yes, sir, similar to Bowie Jane. And I think the difference is Matt, I guess, quickly between Matt and Bowie Jane is Matt actually had an entirely different concept that he wanted to do, and that he just submitted, which is like just why and worse. So this is the part of his game where you start to see that Matt is just never going to really pick up those pieces and actually do some strategic implementation the way that he should, I guess, at this moment, to be like a power player. Matt could have been a strong Big Brother player if he would have ran Cam's HOH and then week 10 Bowie wins HOH. If he would have been the one doing it, he could be considered as a top tier winner, player, whatever, but he didn't do it. And I think what's interesting is the fact that he thought it shows he has the capabilities. So I don't know, Matt on another time, maybe
he would need to be less passive. Like I feel like you can't change passiveness. Like I think that's kind of Matt, you know?
Yeah, I think it just depends because vaguely a little bit. He's mostly social, kind of like Cody from BB16 in the way that Cody, he didn't really have much he knew strategy, but he didn't do anything with it. He just let Derek do it. And he was just mostly the social player. And I think Cody was able to learn not to just sit there and just be social. He was able to actually learn to play the game. But that was like literally 7 years later, you know? So I think for Matt, it can't be next season. I don't see Matt coming back next season and changing his personality and gameplay that way. But if it's 5-6 more seasons, I think that's going to be a totally different person. You grow so much throughout that time. You know what I'm saying? But right now, Matt. So Bowie Jane wins HOH and Jag just runs it. Jag is the one who convinces her to take out Cameron. Matt wants it. It's good for Matt's game. But at this point, basically, because of Matt's super good position, everything that Jag is doing is good for his game.
It's going to work out for him.
Because he's in such a good position, which is great. So that's basically what happens. Bowie Jane gets out Cameron because of Jag. Jag wins the next 2 HOHs.
And I think that's really what it is for me. Like in the comparison of Jag versus Matt. It's like I feel like there's active work versus just positioning at this point. Like and I respect Matt because of his position. I think that some of it is because of what other people are doing, but I mean, we're going through it. Like some of this is his own intention, you know? But it's just that like I hate that. Honestly, the things that I'm praising Jag for that Matt could be doing, and I would be standing Matt for it, but he refuses to do so.
What I like about
when I'm thinking of the game, it's like Cere's power structure ran it in the first half, right? Yeah. He was a field and he was running information back to that, but we was just saying like Matt was not in the end game of the Fields family. He was top 10, top 9, expected at best, and he's not the comp beast that we think he is. So it's not like he would have been able to win his way there, right? This structure, he is at the top of, and he still chooses to just do what someone else is doing. And that's what I'm saying. It's like his position has been great the entire time, but like him being a well-rounded, I feel like that power active player, I'm not seeing that. And I'm not saying that every player has to be that. You don't have to be that to win Big Brother. I just don't think the game he's playing, I would want to vote to win Big Brother. I would want to vote someone who is just a little bit more, I feel like, involved in doing things that they want to have done or things like that.
Moving the story along, too.
Yeah,
he's not moving the story along. If Matt was not in this season, everything would happen exactly the same. And that is the issue with, I guess, wanting to vote for Matt. He didn't really affect, but, well, he did. He is the reason Jag's in the game. So there's that. But other than, and that's the thing, that was the one time we talked about that he did what he wanted to do. And that was probably his best move, literally his best move was using the power on Jag, doing what he wanted to do. So if he continued to do what he wanted to do, it would be good. What I do like about this part of his game is that this is when I realized that once again, he reminded me, similar to Bowie Jane, that he's aware, because this is when he was saying he's aware of his position. What I like about him only being good because of his position is that he's aware of it. He told Sari, if I'm nominated against Jag and Jag wins veto, I'm going home. And that was something that I didn't think he was even thinking in that manner. And when he said it, I was like,
it would happen so bad.
period. When he said it, I was like, damn, me and Lee were just talking about this. And he said it while in the house. So he's aware of his position. And when he started saying that, he started making sure he rekindled his relationship with people like Sari, so that Sari wouldn't even vote him out or wouldn't even probably nominate him. If she won HOH, she would probably have done Jag and Bowie. You know what I'm saying? So it's like at that specific moment that he was doing that going into the double. So I liked that from him, and I feel like it showed that he was still aware of his position. And at this point, he was claiming that he wanted to actually target Jag potentially because he was scared of Jag's perception. And it wasn't until he won the veto at double, and then he started to feel like, well, no, I can win again. And I didn't think he could, but he was right. So I guess I need to shut up. You know, like. Yeah. I didn't think when he said that, I thought he was stupid. I didn't think it made sense for him to think, because I performed at this double and I won this veto, now I have a chance to beat Jag again in this end game. And at that point, Matt was okay with going to the end with Jag again. And I didn't think it was good. But now that we've heard the jury segments and how they feel, I don't think it was because he won the veto. I think it was because he made sure to repair his relationship with Sari before she left, because he kind of severed it when he nominated her. Let's talk about that week, because he wins his first HOH, and this is the week where we're like, he needs to decide between Jag or Sari, or make sure he protects Sari the way that everybody thought he would. She was an ally for him, a number for him, and he nominated her after lying to her, saying he wouldn't. He put her and Felicia up on the block, and he didn't want her to go, but Jag did. So guess what the fuck happened?
She went home, child.
Period. So at this point, Sari ends up,
it's basically, I feel like it should have been a game losing move for him. Not even just because Matt should have took him in Final Four. I feel like this should have been the catalyst. I thought this was going to be the catalyst to prove to everyone, like, clearly Matt's not playing his own game. In the sense that he's not doing what he wants to have happen.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
Yeah.
They respect him, even though he's an airhead.
They respect him. They know that he didn't do what was best for his own game in this moment, and they kind of don't care. And it's like, that's just interesting, I think. It's just,
and I don't think that's like, and I guess you could argue that Jag is just bad jury management, but like, I mean, I feel like I've seen bad jury management. This is, I mean,
yeah, with Sari and
Felicia, it's bad jury management with this jury, I guess.
with Sari and Felicia specifically, I can say sure. With everyone else, I'm not fully sure. I know the double backdoor for Corey and America was probably very emotional, so I can see how they would feel emotionalness towards both of them being backdoored. And then with Sari and Felicia, he kind of didn't really talk to them at all that week, and he kind of iced them out, and they were kind of isolated. So I understand their perspectives, but in general, I wouldn't say he garnered like a bitter jury. I don't necessarily see that. Did he have good jury management? No. Yeah. But I don't think he did the typical things I would associate with making a jury bitter at you. But I mean, hey, they do, and they're the jury. So what the fuck am I? Who am I to say that? But it's not even that. I don't even think they're bitter with him. Some of them genuinely think Matt's playing better. Corey does. And I think Sari just genuinely has a better relationship with Matt, and that's how she's basing her vote. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They just like him better. It's like,
and that's what it comes out. Hey, they like him better. I think they're kind of giving him a game that I don't think is necessarily there 100%. I mean, we kind of saw in that jury segment too, like when they were mentioning, oh, you know, we've all kind of worked with Matt, and now we're sitting here as if Matt had a hand in that. He didn't. Every boot from Mimi to now Felicia was because Jag wanted it.
Yeah.
Point blank period. The order that it happened in is because Jag wanted it. No one else's influence this entire time. It's been Jag. And I can't. I don't know. Because, like, I mean, this last week, and the thing is, like, things are only happening to help their perception. Because even this last week, going to Final Four, he was a potential target. Bowie won the Final Four HOH. Jag won veto, and Jag was going back and forth on should I make the move and cut Matt now, or should I wait? And I think Jag ended up going with loyalty over money, like a dummy. So Matt is still here and has a chance to win the game, and I could easily see him look at like, Matt made a bad move, but then Jag came and he also made a bad move. Like you're keeping Matt the person we want. It's just like I hate that I can't shake this feeling that it's like he really doesn't have to do shit, and they're going to give him the win regardless. Like he doesn't have to manage the jury at all because I don't think he really has necessarily. He doesn't have to exert any influence. He just has to like not piss people off, which he's great at, and he's great at being fake, and I'll give him his sense for that. It's just like I just hate that.
That's it. That's your game.
The goalposts are just so different. But it is what it is. And like I said, I mean, I was consistently giving him high scores. He's had a consistently great position, so I can't even get mad that people are seeing it for him on that level, because there is a level that he's at that I think is better than probably most people who step foot in this house, and that's just a fact. But like I said, I hate that I feel like there's no real work that he has.
It's underwhelming. It's a very we just went through it. It's his game is in a way underwhelming because of the way he played so passively. There was no control that he ever had, and when it comes to Big Brother, especially because of the consistent amount of times we get someone in control, and we know that that's what happens. Someone takes control of the game, and it was Sarit, and then it was Jag. It not being him is disappointing. Like no one wants a winner who wasn't involved in that. Even honestly, when it's like when Tiffany lost BB 23, everyone was upset because she was the one who was in control. You want the person who had control to get the reward.
Some people pay we won't, because I feel like we've discussed that we are players who enjoy people with control. Maybe you're just not a player who would like.
You're just not a person who would enjoy that. But it's not. I feel like this isn't a hard concept to understand. That of course we want someone who had a lot of control in the game and who was pushing the narratives to win. I will say, like I said, I probably still would vote Matt, because at the end of the day, the game is a social game, and going back through it and like thinking about his game, the parts that I like are the parts that he is aware. I thought he would be an unaware player, and he wasn't. He clearly was aware, and there were times where he was social on purpose. And I think both of those things can be enough for a Big Brother winner. It's something that it's like, I mean, you're socially aware, and I mean, hey, you got to the end in a social game. Because Big Brother is mostly a social game, I'm not that mad at mostly social players. I get more annoyed at players who are just physical and win. But I would prefer you be strategic. But hey, if Matt's just social, Matt's just social. Any more thoughts on Matt?
None.
Period.
Let's get to my man. Honestly, like the star of the season. Like we have so much material.
His story is crazy, and we finna go over it. But
I mean, let's get into the stats first. Let's get into the stats. Jag Bains has 3 HOH wins, don't he? Oh, there's only 2 so far? Oh, he's winning the final HOH. That's going to be his third. His record breaking. 2 HOHs, 7 POVs. He's tied the overall comp record that Janelle and Michael Brunner has. He's beaten the POV record that Michael just beat last year. And he's only been nominated 3 times. Hashtag that girl.
Oh, I should have put evicted one. Low key. Damn, now that I'm thinking about it. But hey, we'll get into it.
Shut up. Oh my God.
It's true. That's a part of his
past. I support Jag through his ups and his downs. And there were some down weeks that we finna get into. But baby, when he was up, he was up.
But this is the thing. Jag has been, and this is honestly, I think this is Lee's point, even though I'm not Lee. I'm gonna tell y'all. Period. Jag, when I went and took my notes.
For me, sister.
When I went and took my notes, Jag was the most involved person in this final 3 by far. He was involved every single week of this game, period, point blank. And that alone should give him the win.
Main character.
I said what I said. The word deserve is weird, but I definitely do think that Jag deserves to win. I wouldn't say anyone deserves more than the other, but Jag definitely does deserve it. I feel like people denouncing him deserving it is ridiculous, and it's just because he was evicted. But we're about to get into why he does deserve it. He is super involved. He played this game with his heart to the hardest. And let me get off of it. Let me stop being head juggernaut. But he did.
That's the thing. I think a lot of people are using that deserve word to say he doesn't deserve it, and I think that is just so.
I think everyone. First of all, everyone deserves it. Everyone, and no one deserves it. Deserve is such a weird word to put. But if you're going to use it to say that somebody deserves it over the Jag deserves it, period. Not necessarily over anybody or under anybody. He just does deserve it. Everyone deserves it to an extent. And Jag, I feel like, does. He proved that he wanted to play this game. So started off week 1, and that's the thing. We were skipping by some of the weeks for the other 2 people. We can't with Jag. He was so involved.
Jag was literally an active member in all of these weeks.
Week 1, Jag immediately started off the game, honestly, a little bit impressive because he was the one who created the first alliance. He's the one who created Family Style. Initially, it was going to be something that included Sari and Felicia because Jared had implemented that, and Jag didn't let that happen, and he made sure all the members were the members that he was closest to, and that the outside members were the people that he was secondary closest to who were on the outside. He created the entire structure. He just didn't account for the fact that Sari and Jared are literally related, and that is what helped. Literally. And that is what helped the alliance crumble. Jared exposed it, it crumbled, and it got demolished. So by the end of week 1, Jack had created the entire alliance, created the entire power structure. Riley, the HOH, was very loyal to him and was under his thumb, and he had Blue on his side. And by the end of the week, the entire power structure was exposed. There was an 11-person group that were going against him and the rest of his allies, and he was at a very bad position by the end of week 1.
Mm-hmm. But what I remember is that it wasn't too terrible, only because they were mainly looking at Riley, they were looking at Cameron, and then you had Heisem, who at this point we thought maybe would have lasted a little bit longer, or just maybe not have been targeted by his closest allies. Heisem didn't want to go after Jag. He was like, we're 2 brown people in this game. I don't want brown on brown crime. I don't want that to be something used throughout this season. So he was protected in certain ways here and there. He definitely was not just like an immediate target. I feel like even the week he went home.
Yeah, and that's what was good because Heisem does win the next HOH when all of this had crumbled. And leading into this week, Sari, he was also a part of the group with Matt and Sari, of course. This Riley alliance, Riley's Promise alliance had started. So he had a connection to Sari. Sari was also weirdly trying to work with everybody in the house. So that was his association there. And then Heisem wins the HOH, who isn't going to nominate him. He's just going to target Riley, who is Jack's closest ally. And that is an issue. And Jack he just got a bad hand dealt because Sari is a masterful player. She's the one who ruined this power structure that probably normally would work in a lot of other seasons, especially pre the new era. It would have worked, but I just feel like in this scenario, it was just not going to work, and it didn't. Heisem wins this HOH, and he takes out Riley, who is one of his closest allies. And this week with Jag, Jag was approached by Sari to potentially flip the vote. Jag and Sari were talking about potentially flipping the vote to save Riley because Sari did genuinely want to save Riley. And this got Jag's hopes up a lot.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of momentum.
He was fighting for Riley. Damn.
He was fighting for Riley really hard. And there was a lot of momentum for Riley to potentially stay. And then Sari and her family changed their minds.
As they do.
As they do. And they decided they don't want Riley to stay. They want Riley to go. And at this point, Jag throws a Hail Mary.
Yeah. He's trying to get desperate, child.
Walks around telling everyone that the vote has flipped again and that Riley is staying and that everybody needs to make sure they evict Cameron because Riley is staying and she has the numbers. He was lying.
Yeah, and like I think what I really, really do enjoy about Jag, especially I feel like, I hate to compare him, child. But I'm thinking of just like the type of game that Jag was playing overall versus what Matt was playing overall. Like Matt, whether it was submissive or not, he was a low-key player. He was always going to be low-key. Like even if I think he took control, it would have been in a low-key way. Whereas Jag, I feel like he really is just that kind of out in front active player almost a little bit. So but his reads were not always great at all. Like I felt like, and maybe this is because we have the bird's eye view, it was very obvious that Sari and then was kind of just playing in their face in a way of like they had control of this vote. So when they're telling you we can get Riley to stay, and then when they're telling you, well, I mean, we can't do it, baby, that's all Sari. That's all Sari Izzy in there. That's no one else. You know what I mean? Whereas Blue and Matt, I feel like they were kind of already on the spectrum of that Raleigh girl can go.
Yeah,
I mean, we're chill.
yeah.
Like Matt a little bit less, but Matt wasn't a type of player that was going to blatantly lie to try and get people to change their mind. Whereas
Mhm.
Jag is.
He's gonna throw everything at the wall, which is I respect it, but sometimes it just leads to bad things, especially when his reads are bad. So at the end of the week, week two, that's what he does. So going into week three, they're kind of upset with him about that.
Especially Felicia.
Um, especially Felicia. They're kind of upset with Jag about that, and Felicia wins this HOH, and Felicia wants to pawn Jag, and because it's oh my god, time out. It's interesting because we haven't had to talk about nominations that much because Bowie and Matt were never nommed. So now we got to talk about nominations because Jag is not okay. But Felicia wants to pawn Jag this week, and there had been inklings about a group of people working together with the Riley save, and this is when Jag is like, "Okay, I'll be a pawn, but we need to make sure we form this group formally."
I
And this
really
group
like this
is Seven
move.
Deadly Sins.
I like this move because it ended up actually forming. Like this alliance actually forms, and if it wasn't for Cameron winning that pressure cooker HOH, Jag probably doesn't even go home because
Yeah.
I don't think that the alliance. I don't think they would have made the shot themselves. They were worried about Jag. They were worried about Bowie, Cameron, and Red.
And Red, yeah, they really were. So, and even after them, it was America. They were worried about the people who weren't in this group of people.
Because they
So,
thought they were just loyal to it and was down with it. And like Jag was really the first. And I remember thinking when he pitched this isn't going to go anywhere for real. At first, it was like talks of it, but then they were really like, let's solidify this.
and that's what's so good about Jag's like active gameplay is that being active, no matter how sloppy or whatever, it's always going to help in a way. And it did help, and I think it would have helped him last even longer if just the wrong person didn't win HOH. So that's what happens this week. But also this week, he makes the alliance, and throughout the week, he kind of stops talking to them. And he tended to do this a lot at this beginning phase. So instead of talking to the Seven Deadly Sins, he started talking a lot to Red. And there was a scene this week where he is talking to Red in the middle of the kitchen for over an hour about literally how he kind of doesn't trust Suri and them side. And this is because of the last week, Heisem had been telling Jag and Blue and his closest are the allies who weren't with Suri's side, that Suri's side was supposed to be loyal to him. And they weren't. They backstabbed him and they turned on him. So you need to watch out. This led Jag to potentially wanting to form some type of group against them with Red and Cameron. And that's why he spoke to Red about this potential thing.
And that's
but
what I'm saying. Like, I
which
think
is smart.
it got to a point with Jag where, yes, like the pawning himself and the kind of going back and forth of like who he can trust, who he can't trust. It's really mainly because I feel like Suri hold on this game was so strong that he really had no allies that were down to actually do it with him. Because like when people are like, oh, why does Jag not like Suri so much all of a sudden? It's not all of a sudden. Like he has been clocking Jared, Suri, Felicia. It's just that his allies were like jagging it together, and he himself knew, okay, I have to placate them so I can stay safe. So that's what he had to do. But I feel like he definitely always was against them in his mind. Like even though the actions didn't always align, like in his mind, like this is definitely the start of like, okay, I can't trust them.
Yeah, he was one of the first people who really like had some momentum behind the not trusting them situation. The issue is, the issue is, they Suri specifically kept kind of getting him under their spell. Like every time he would start this, Suri would kind of speak to him a little bit, and he would like calm down on it. And around this time, Jag started feeling some type of way about AmeriCorey a little bit because of the sprinkles of lies that Suri and their group was telling him. And that led until week 4 also. And it's annoying because he was in between this. It was like limbo for him. He wanted to go against them, but he was also believing them and trusting them. And then he didn't trust them, but he did. And he didn't want to be a pawn, but he was. And it was just very weird because I think he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He couldn't really go against them. So his only choice really was just to trust them because there was no one else, you know?
Yeah.
And
then honestly, like I said, I don't think it would have worked out too bad for him. Like, I mean, Cameron, I remember like literally you have America who says she threw it. Like there were other allies like that lasted long in that competition. If it was anybody but Cameron, I think Jag is good because at
Yeah.
this point, what Sari basically did good at was making sure it was basically Jag and Blue versus Cameron and Red. I think they
Mhm.
successfully set up that these two people need to be targeting each other. So once Cameron won and Cameron didn't want to take the shot, um, it had to have been Jag and or Blue.
Yeah. So that's what happens. Jag is the target this week, and he was comfortable. He was very like kind of too comfortable going into this week. And then when this week happened and he was nominated, he at first wasn't even campaigning that much.
Yeah.
It was very
And he
weird.
had so much he could have said. Like both of
It
them
was
were currently sitting in an alliance with the same damn people,
yeah.
two different alliances. And this is the information that someone like America at this time had been telling Jag. And this is why I think a lot of people were just like done with Jag going into these weeks because he had the information. He himself had the conversations about what was happening. But
Mhm.
when it was time to kind of like put the money where the mouth was, he didn't take the opportunity. Like he kind of just was like, "Oh, America's the liar. Sari's telling the truth. I'm loyal to Seven Deadly Sins, and I mean, I'll just go up this week because I'm in the Seven Deadly Sins, and it's fine." It's just like it was like, "Jag, baby, do you want to go home? Like, where was the? I feel like." And I think Eric from A Wall gonna be there kept joking about this. Like this man really fight for Riley more than he fought for himself.
Yeah, he
Like
did.
he was so cool, calm, and collected this week, and then he went home. It was
Yeah,
like, what the fuck?
that was
Like he
literally crazy.
only started campaigning towards the end, and it was against Blue, which fucked him and Blue
There was
relationship
a
up.
point in this week where Sari and them wanted Blue to go instead of Jag,
Mm-hmm.
and it just didn't really pick up because Jag didn't do anything to really help his case at this point. It was just weird. He was acting weird. So
Mm-hmm.
this week Jag ends up getting evicted, and this is the thing about Jag. Jag had so much information.
Yeah.
What Heisem told him, Heisem included some inklings about Jared when Heisem was campaigning. He mentioned how Jared was a part of this group of people. And then with this power, Jared slipped up because Sari told Jared about the power, and Jared mentioned it to Jag, and Jag knew Sari was the only other person who knew. So it was a lot going on in this situation where he had a lot of the pieces to put a
Yeah.
lot of stuff together. But
And he
it was
did for a second
he
because
did it, and he didn't. And it's like, why do you keep doing that? But yeah,
because literally like this week again, like America was warning him. She was the only one telling him like you're going home. Because
yeah.
Jag this entire and it was so embarrassing seeing him campaign because he was obviously going home and people was lying to his face and he kept saying, "Well, let's
Mhm.
all just get in the room. If this person, this person, this person get in the room, we all say we're keeping Jag, and you guys are all keeping Jag." And America kept telling him, "Boy, that has never worked. What have you watched this show? Like you're going to go home. I'm telling you, you're going home." He
Mhm.
wouldn't believe it. And then the power got used, so he stayed that way. Pharaoh just mentioned all the situation with Jared knowing about it, and then Jared, we saw in the episode, Jared pressed the fuck out of him
Yeah.
about it, and he had a conversation with Blue after both of them saved that week, and they were basically like, "Who's running the game? Sari.
Mhm.
Who's someone that is the most protected? Sari. Like who? Like they were
Mhm.
breaking down basically the groups and the alliances, but that all flipped
It
again. Like
only
he had a
lasted for
good
a day or a
conversation.
day and a half because
Yes. Like he even had a good conversation with Corey in America that night. And it
yeah,
seemed like, oh shit, like this is the
yeah.
real coalition. Like it's building, it's happening. But
So then he starts to interrogate the entire house basically because he got voted out 10-0. So he walks around the house asking a lot of different people, and he's trying to get people in rooms to make sure that people are telling the truth. And well, actually, he's not. He wants to just find the truth out. And Sari is like, "How about you get everybody in the room? Because I know what I did, and I know where my heart was at, and and I know that it was America's fault that you were the one who went home because America and Corey didn't want to stand behind it." And Jack believed it. He believed that
about to
America
die.
that that America and Corey were the reason that he went home 10-0, even though they're just two people, and the other 10 people, the other 8 people are all together telling him that it was America and Corey's fault. He believed it. And this is around the time where he was kind of wavering and waffling, but then he ended up back in Cerie's mist. And
Yeah.
he ended up back on the side of, oh, okay, America and Corey are a problem, and they need to go. And this led into week 6 too, when Cameron was HOH at the beginning of this week, he was still feeling this way. He was still under that spell. It wasn't until the vote flip that changed the entire game, where he waffled. And Lee talked about it.
We kind of skipped past it a little bit too, because you skated past the fact that he allowed himself to be repawned. He was so
Oh my God, I forgot.
He was so misted. And he was pissing people off to the fact that like Sari basically regretted having this power being used, and they decided, well, we're just gonna renom Jag and get him out. And the issue was, how do we nominate Jag? Because we're the Seven Deadly Sins, we just kept them, all these other things, right? And I mean, with the help of Blue, they were all in the room, the Seven Deadly Sins, and they basically just pushed him into, yeah, go up. The Blue was like, I mean, what if we put up Jag? And then everybody was like, yeah. And Felicia was like, so Jag, you're going up? Meeting adjourned. And he was like, I mean, I guess I'll do it. Thank God he stayed, but barely. Like
these 2 weeks were so like not good. And even the beginning of week 6, he was still under this weird spell that the Seven Deadly Sins was real. He thought it was so real, and it just was so not. And not just everyone, Blue and even Matt a little bit thought it was real, which is why they were upset when it got exposed. But it's like,
I think Jag definitely just got made to look the most stupid. And I think that's also mainly because he was the more active one. He was the one that was clocking shit and trying to get answers and because he was the one that was really figuring out what was happening. Whereas like Blue, she was kind of like, even when Blue and Jag had that conversation, it gave very much after that conversation, Blue was like, well, I'm going to become a Fields. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And he didn't fully become a Fields. He wanted to get answers. And it's like,
Blue was a Fields and Matt was a Fields and Jag was still a Bains. And Jag stayed a Bains forever. And that was why he got pawned and was actually initially
Matt and Blue literally had conversations like, there's nothing we can do for him because he refuses to just at least pretend to like them.
Yeah, he won't do it. And that was his problem at this point in the game, because this point was too rocky for him to not be doing that. Yeah. And then going into week 6, he was kind of doing it. He was just pretending to be with them or playing like he was.
This is where it finally got good for him. I mean, at the end of the week,
got really good with him.
The game for everybody.
But he's the one who really took the initiative with
definitely.
So Corey does his flip. He tells everybody about all the alliances, and Jag, this is Jag's chance. Jag was a part of one of those alliances, and he felt very upset about this. Mm-hmm. And during this time, Jared finds out through Matt. He lies to Matt, tells Matt and Corey that Jag told him about the flip already. And I know about it. And then he gets in an argument with Corey, and they bring Jag in the room. And while they're arguing, it comes out that Jared lied about Jag snitching on it and everything. And that never happened. And all this did was solidify what Jag has been thinking this entire game. These people are together. These people need to go. How do I get this to happen? And
especially now with Sari coming into that conversation, defending him and trying to protect Jared. It was like, this was definitely the deciding factor. He also got information from Cameron this day that Jared had been telling Cameron that he wants to target Jag. Mm-hmm. So, Jag is done. He's done with the Fields family. Like, he is officially over it. And this is where his game really takes a turn. He's like, really picks up the pieces for himself.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's crazy because we talk about it with, after this double eviction, of course, this double eviction and the zombie week, it was so just crazy. This is where they solidified this new group of people who are all working together, which was Co-America, Jag, Matt, a little bit Bowie Jane, a little bit Blue. Jared ends up taking out Cameron. Corey takes out Jared. They do the zombie week. Jared goes home officially. And during the zombie week is the beginning of Jag's reign, his prowess at this end game, because he comes up with the idea to make sure they bring Cameron in. Him, Matt, and Cameron need to make a final 3 called the Fugitives. He creates it. He brings Cameron in because he knows that Cameron is more likely to win the competition to come back in. So they make this final 3 with Cameron, and now he runs Cameron. Cameron wins the HOH. Jag, Cameron wants to take out Corey, and Jag does not, because Corey and America are people who he's had working relationships with this entire game, and that's what's best for him. And he makes sure that
was mad about Jag with this one. I think a lot of people was like, "Yeah, always trying to protect Corey and America. Why is Jag always trying to protect Corey and America?" And I think people saw it as he's never going to cut Corey and America. Like, this is like, he clearly wants to work with them. And I mean, he said it himself. Like, he was using them as a shield, which I mean, I see it and I kind of don't at the same time because it's like Corey and America weren't necessarily a huge shield for you. Like, if the other side was able to get a win, they still would have tried to target the Matt and Jag of it all. But the
Mhm.
fact that Corey and America were there and was protecting Matt and Jag was the best bet of it all because it's like, at least there are huge players that also want to protect us. Whereas if you left someone like Mimi in the game, they were coming for Jag and Matt Nasty.
What's good, and this was a really good point of the game for Jack because he did still have allies because he was the one who actively made sure Cameron was with him. He actively made sure Bowie Jane was with them, and that was what was positive. The negative part was the fact that everyone was just going to target him. He was just such a big threat, and he made it. He kind of made it obvious after the flip. It was a chance for him to um, play a different type of game than he was before. And he didn't really do that. He kind of just played the same outwardly forward game where he's just out in front and center and everybody knows it
Mm-hmm.
to the point where if he doesn't win a comp, he could go home. I think the pro is he can win a comp, but the con is like, for example, one of his allies, one of his three allies was Bowie Jane. And at this point, Bowie Jane didn't win any competitions. So it's good that you got Bowie Jane, but in the world that Bowie Jane doesn't win the HOH and Felicia does, baby, you're the target. You
Yeah.
know, there's so many times where you would literally be the target if someone else wins the comp and you don't know who's going to win these comps. So that was the issue with this part of the game. Even though he had so much control, it was because his allies were winning the HOHs. He ran their HOHs, but if they didn't, he would have been the target, and that's kind of like the icky part of this part of the season. But it doesn't matter because they did win the HOHs.
Yeah,
Cameron won it.
I liked his thought processes after this because it's like I think he was definitely purposely targeting the people that he knew could potentially beat him in competitions, and that's what he needed at this point. Like, because
Yeah.
that was his game. He was going to have to win to stay safe. And like, I like even this Cameron week, like if he didn't want Corey, he wanted Felicia. And Jag this entire week, like he stopped the Corey target, and then once that went away, he was like, "Well, what about this Mimi thing?" You know,
Mhm.
which and to be fair, Corey's own stupidity helped push that a lot. But Jag really latched onto that quickly, realizing that this was the move best for him, and he took that because, like I
Yeah.
just said, Mimi would have targeted him and Matt. He was one of the only people that would have targeted him and Matt.
Mhm.
So I think that he was making the best decisions he could with the scenario he was in. Like in a situation where he was the biggest target and he had to get out certain people that were could potentially when they come after him, and he did that.
I agree. I think he honestly, I was giving him a lot of flack while it was happening because sometimes he didn't want to take out Corey, and I thought he should, and he didn't want to do this. But now that everything is said and done, I think he took out the right person the right week and this entire end game. Me Cole going home was the perfect thing to happen. And this week is what really showed me his strategic like prowess, what he can do when he's in a good position for strategy. Because him pretending Corey made this decision was just super, super strategic. It was super smart. I think Jag is one of the more strategic people this season, honestly, because this was just elaborate. He allowed Corey to think that Corey convinced them to let Miko go when it was bad for Corey, and Corey actually didn't convince them. They wanted to do it regardless. And I think that that is just the
And
pinnacle of Jag's strategic game. This week is very evident of it for sure.
I agree, and I feel like even then, like it's like people going straight to, oh, he would have he won the competitions and that's why he was safe. It's like at this point in the game, even if Corey and America had won a competition, they were targeting Blue over Matt and
Yeah,
Jag.
that's
They were
true.
putting up Felicia and Sarit over Matt and Jag. They
That's
were
true.
literally this not the week or around the same area where Corey and America had that kind of Final Four thing with Mimi and Felicia, and they ratted that out to Matt and Jag because they were
Yep.
literally more loyal to Matt and Jag, and that was Jag's doing. Jag
Yep.
was in the Unreliables alliance with Corey and America, which we really didn't mention, but it was never really that relevant. He had that relationship with Corey and America, so it's like it definitely made sense what he was doing at that time period because Corey and America had had a lot of conversations at that point where they were not going after Matt and Jag, and we were all like, "What the fuck is Corey and America doing?"
hmm Also, even more so strategically, when Corey and America told him about Felicia and Nicole being with them, he said, "Me and Matt need to do that." He told Matt, You need to go talk to Mimi. I'm going to talk to Felicia, and we need to make sure that we actually do that. So there were a lot of strategic things that he was doing whenever he had the chance.
He
And
always is coming up with plans and ideas and
exactly.
strategies for competitions, even.
For competitions even. And I will say this in game, he was way more. I feel like he had a lot of more chances to do it. And Tyson from Survivor was on a podcast, and he mentioned the fact that if you get voted out and come back in the game, you see the game way more differently. You want to be way more active than you were beforehand. And I want to say with Jag, I think it applies to everybody it happens to, but with Jag, I don't think it's that big of an extent. I think his pre eviction game was still very dynamic and very like a very active.
Yeah.
Similar to his post eviction game. So even though he was evicted, I don't necessarily think it gave him some sort of new whim that usually
but
does
like,
happen.
it's not even. But that's the thing. The person who got him quotations evicted was Cameron, who wants him to win the game, and also it was Cameron, who no one liked. If Cameron had not won HOH that week, Jag wouldn't even went home that week. It would have been Red or Cameron.
That's true. That's just that on that. So, boom. After this, Bowie Jane wins HOH, and even just to top on the fact that he ran Cameron's HOH, he ran Bowie Jane and made sure she got out her closest ally at that point, other than him, which was Cameron. And from this point on, he was running the game, whether it was cop wins or not. I don't know what to tell y'all because he ran those 2 HOHs, which he was not the HOH. Then he won 2 in a row himself. What I will say about his invisible HOH week is I don't think he did do that the smoothest. I think he should have already been targeting Corey in America. He wasn't initially. He was going to take out Blue. It didn't matter because Blue won the veto, and he ended up taking out Corey, which ended up being the best move for his game regardless. So, and that's the thing with Jag, and that's what people harp on, is that he does make mistakes. He's not a perfect player. He has a lot of times where he makes mistakes, even when he has so much control like this. But this in game, he kept it up. So those 2 HOHs in a row, he took out Corey and Blue, of course. Bowie Jane won the double, and she was not taking him out. And this in game, it gets back interesting for him.
Yeah. So before we get into that a little bit, how do you feel about the decision for him to go after Blue? Because I think a lot of people were like, "Why is he targeting Blue? Like she's his closest ally." I don't understand that move at all. What do you think about that?
I didn't like the decision, but it's because I feel like when I'm thinking of Big Brother, I'm thinking of the people who are strategically and socially more skilled than you. But in this scenario, he was thinking about competitions, and he was right, because I feel like the initial time when he was Invincible HOH, I feel like he should have targeted Corey in America. I don't think he should have targeted Blue, and he was. So that was a mistake. But after he targeted Corey and then he targeted Blue the next week, I think it was the best thing, because at that double eviction when Bowie Jane won, the only other person who was capable to win that comp from past experience was Blue. So the fact that Blue went home before that, I think it was really good for him, because he could have went home if Blue was still in that game. I just don't, and this has nothing to do with him. It's about the structure of the game being so physical. I hate that his main reason was because she could beat him in the comp. Like, that's a boring reason, honestly. But other than that, I do think that it was smart. I think everyone he ended up taking out when they got out was at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. And then I will say he shouldn't have been able to play that HOH twice in a row.
He definitely shouldn't have been able.
He shouldn't have, and that's what's slightly unfortunate. I don't really care that much. Oh well, it's already Big Brother's been stupid for a while. I'm not too surprised, but it's unfortunate because he probably wouldn't even. He might not be here.
Well, no, he would have won that veto.
No, but I'm just saying I was mostly talking about the double, because Bowie Jane probably would have. Bowie Jane probably would have went home.
You're right.
And she's the one who won the double.
Matt was second in the HOH though.
But I think Blue would have won it, because Blue would have still been.
That's true.
So that's why I think he could have went home at the double had he not.
You're trying to protect my man.
I think he could have went home if that he wasn't able to play twice.
And I think that's just what it is. It's like for me too. It's like now that we're looking at it in retrospect, like Mafia is the final 3. This was almost inevitable. Like unless Jag actually cuts Matt at the final 4, which we'll get into. But it's like it's inevitable that the Mafia was going to beast out these comps the way they did. It's just that, like, going back to the Jag versus Matt comparison, I would have wished that viewing Jag's game from this point forward to viewing Matt's game, I would have enjoyed that it was at least more of a duo thing.
Yeah.
Like I felt like the decisions were them making them, or Matt took some here and Jag did this here. Like if let's say Matt took out Corey, and then Jackson around and took out Cameron type shit. And it's like, oh, okay, now we're going back and forth. Like this is this, but it's like I feel like all of this was just Jag at this point.
It
Every
was.
last bit of it.
Every last
And
bit.
where Matt could have done something, he didn't. He chose not to. And
Yeah.
it's like you could argue, I guess he didn't have to, but it's like, I mean, not for me to respect it, and I won't. So what now?
So after the double, that's really honestly it's signed, sealed, and delivered for Jag. Jag can win this game. Like he basically should win this game after the double. So Matt wins the HOH, and Jag convinces Matt to take out Matt's only other lifeline, which is Sari. He makes Matt okay with it. Like Matt doesn't want it to happen, and Jag sits there for 5 minutes, doesn't take long at all, convinces Matt to be okay with it, and Matt says, yes, sir. Bowie Jane has been saying, yes, sir, this entire time. And at this point, he's just running the only two other capable players in the game. He takes out Sari, which was an amazing move for him. And then at Final Four, Bowie Jane wins HOH. And this when it gets questionable because Lee, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but Jag doesn't take the shot at Matt. So you think he lost the game, or how do you feel? Do you feel this was just a terrible?
Like I said, like Matt just won part one. If Matt wins part two, whether Matt takes Jag or not, Matt is winning. So it is bad if Matt is able to beat him in that final competition, point blank period. Now, it's very possible because when we go back to the question comps, Matt does well at those questions. Now, the final iteration is usually something that you're supposed to be studying for the entire time. I think Jag has been studying this entire time. Whether when those mental comps, it was more so like this thing that happened last night, or we're going to show you this thing right now and tell me what's happening. Like the final iteration is more so. Well, no, that's different though. Haven't it changed to it'll be a juror? No, it'll be like how many. Yeah, they'll come up and be like, "How many vetoes did I win?"
They're very easy. They're honestly very easy. I could answer those questions if I wasn't even paying attention to the season. Really, like barely even paying attention.
I feel like he's been studying, but I also know Matt's been studying, and Matt is better at these type of question competitions. So I just feel like if Matt ends up winning final HOH, he takes Jag, and Matt wins. Like, yeah, it's stupid as fuck. I think he should have made the move 100%. Because he wins the game 100% at this point. Like. He would have won part one over Felicia.
He regretted it a little bit.
Bowie would have won part two. And then even if Bowie won part three, Bowie takes Jag and Jag wins. Like he went from position to where he wins either way to maybe, depending on if Matt wins. It's honestly dumb and it's unfortunate because he's in a different scenario with Matt. I think if Jag does not win this game, Jag is not respected at all. He goes down as one of the worst by a lot of people. He is not going to get respect in the BB community or anything like that, which I think is very unfortunate, especially for our first sick Punjabi.
It's insane. Player. We just went through his game. He did so much, but
yeah. And then whereas Matt, I feel like if he were to win it or lose it, he's going to go out with some type of respect or some type of like quote unquote legacy. But if Matt were to win, he definitely is leaving with a legacy. And I mean, he represents a group of people who would love to see him win. And I do think that he had a phenomenal social game. It's just I feel like overall player winner, I want that to be Jag, and I hate that if Jag doesn't win. Like I said, it feels like no one's gonna respect him moving forward. People are not even respecting him if he win, but you kind of got to get over it if he win, And I think he deserves to win this season, but it sucks. At the end of the day, him not cutting Matt. If Matt does win the final part and Matt wins this game, he deserves it. I'm not gonna sit here and trash it. Like that's why I tweeted this. Like Jag making it so hard to root for him sometimes because he does make mistakes, and I think this was a mistake. However, it was a mistake that a lot of people would never be in a position to do. A lot of people are not in a scenario where cutting your closest ally is the direct path to the end game. Most people, I don't think, would do it. Most people probably wouldn't do it because a lot of people have loyalty. I'm someone who I wouldn't say I would necessarily do it. And the fact that he's put in a spot where he kind of has to and Matt doesn't, it pisses me off. It does. Because Matt can win the final situation, take Jag, and they're going to be like, well, Matt still deserves it. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. It's interesting. It sucks. And I feel like it's an interesting situation because I don't think I would have necessarily taken out Matt either, which is like, damn, it sucks. But it's like
he even convinced Bowie that we're the final two I want you to take. Like, it's like this man, I feel like at every turn, has outplayed
And that's
Jag.
what I was going to say. He's done so much good, and it's gonna suck if people already have compared him to some of the work. They said if he wins, he's gonna be one of the worst winners, and they talk about how he's a bad player. I don't think Jag is a bad player. Bad players are people who sit there like Victoria and don't do anything and get nominated all damn season. Jag, even though he was evicted, oh well, 10-0, he literally convinced Bowie Jane to take him to the final two. He's convinced Matt to allow Sari to go home. He's convinced Cameron to take out people that Cameron didn't want to take out. Convinced Bowie Jane to take out someone she didn't want to take out. Bad players are not capable of convincing anybody of anything. Calling Jag a bad player is crazy. Period. You would not A bad player would not be able to convince someone to do anything, regardless of the situation. And Jag has done it for 4 different people in totally different stages of the game, multiple times throughout the game, period. So at the end of the day, Jag is just not a bad player. It's going to be unfortunate if people say he is just because they don't like him or they don't respect the fact that he's won a lot of comps or whatever it is. There are a lot of things about Jag's game that aren't perfect, and he isn't the best player ever, and everything isn't great when it comes to his game. And he did win a lot of comps, but there are still parts of his game that are just good, regardless of the comps, regardless of the bad things. There's good parts too, and he still could win. That's the gag. So
and I hope he does, but
and I hope he
made
does
it harder for himself. I really
hope he does too. I would vote him in this final 3 over the other two, based on honestly based on activeness, based on how much a part of the game he was. He was such a big part, and he's a good representation of the season because of how involved he was at every point. I wouldn't be mad if someone voted Matt, because I do think Matt has his good points too. I wouldn't be mad at anyone. That's what I said when we did Bowie Jane. Like, I wouldn't be mad at any of these people beating the other person. I just feel like Jag has had a very just active and open game, and especially us going through all of them the entire time, you see how much Jag was involved throughout. So when it comes to, like, I guess representing this season, the chaos of it all, Jag is a great representation of it. Honestly, the story is just there.
I felt the same way about Ty, and we were kind of saying this off the podcast. If you watch EP kind of 11, I think Jag is kind of comparable to Ty. I don't think Ty was a bad winner at the end of the day, like especially sitting in that final 3.
Yeah. Honestly.
Well, I would have preferred Daniel, but Daniel was not going to win a comp to get there. So
yeah. So I mean, the story is there. I think this I guess this final 3 is coming down to this story that we've seen reoccurring recently of the social versus the, I guess, everything else. Really, because even kind of with Monty, people would argue that Monty was more strategic than Taylor, and he was more involved in the pushing the narrative forward than Taylor, and then Taylor was the more social person. So,
but that's the thing. It's like the way we just said how Jag is more involved. I think Taylor is involved in that way. Like, Taylor was a relevant piece to that season every step of the way, whether she was nominated, being the house target, being protected. You know what I mean?
So she was, like, but when I was, because you know how we were talking about, like, because I agree. I don't think Matt and Taylor are that comparable, because Taylor was so involved and she still was a great representation of the story of that season. But when we talk about moving the game forward and how Sari was moving it forward pre-jury, and then Jag was moving it forward post-jury, Taylor was never involved in moving the story forward. She was just a part of the story. And I think Monty had a good part of that. So I think it's comparable in the sense that Monty is this person who was actually strategically moving parts of this game, getting a mirror out, creating the leftover, all this other shit. And I see that with Jag when he's convincing people of doing things and creating the final 3s and the final 2s. And then Taylor was just, not just, but Taylor had a phenomenal social game. And I think it's just this battle between, is Big Brother just a social game at the end of the day? And I think, especially if Matt ends up in final 2 with Jag and Matt wins, we get back-to-back situations where that social game gets you the win. And I like that part of the story. I like that. If Matt wins, that's one of the good things that I will take from it, is that I do like that Big Brother can just be social, which I feel like is what it is at its core. The way that this season's happening, it's like, but because we just had Taylor, I think it'll cancel each other out. We just had Taylor, use that as the representation, please.
I just think it's just definitely way more nuanced. I think it's way more nuanced when it comes to each different. Like, I can't, like, even though I feel like Matt played a more social game, whereas Jag may have played a more competitive / strategic game, and I do think that Monty and Taylor could be compared on that simple level, but I think it just stops at that. And I think that's what happens each and every season. Like, you can compare like the kind of game, but there's just way too many nuances in it. Because like, whereas I feel like Matt played a very passive social game, I feel like Taylor's social game was way more involved and way more dominant because it had to be, because she literally was hated. So she had to work from that bottom to earn that respect to stay in the game. Whereas Matt kind of just been here. And I do think some of his work is intentional. It's just like he's never had to do that much. And it's like I say, it sucks because I feel like you have Jag, who's been fighting for his life in this game, Bowie, who's never been respected, and Matt, who's kind of just always been liked.
Yeah,
and I hate that it's like, I hate that that's like, it feels like there was no activeness into getting there personally for me, because I don't think, because there are people.
It's not even personally for you in general. We just went through it. There was no activeness.
Well, the thing is, people will argue that there were. People will argue that he
wrong,
but and that he was, making sure people would be
argue that
in front of him.
And we see what happened. We unless you're trying to literally pretend that that's not what happened, and if people are out there trying to pretend that's not what happened, I don't know what to tell you. Matt genuinely just was not. I don't even think he wanted to play that way. So for someone to say he was playing that way would be weird, because I don't even think he would say he's playing that way. Matt did not want to be the person driving the narrative, and he was not the person driving the narrative, and it was Jag. Of this final three, it was mostly Jag. Bowie Jane not getting respected is also ridiculous, because Bowie Jane did play a comparable game to Matt, and it's arguably even better because she hasn't been nominated. So I feel like, and not even like to bash Matt, but just to put in perspective the fact that there's respect that you can be seen from all three of these people. Matt was good socially, but also he had privilege. He just simply has a personality type that is just naturally more agreeable for people, but people just like it better in this society. Digestible is the word I was looking for people, because of society, honestly, because it is a more, quotations, masculine, chill, quotations, all of these things that describe, this all-American, some people might say, kind of personality that I feel like Matt just has. And you can't give people personality. Like, you can't switch up your entire personhood coming into this game. And I feel like Matt just has that privilege. He's also a man. He's also white. These are all privileges that he just has that Bowie Jane and Jag don't have. So he had a totally different story. And it just was an easier ride because of his natural personality. So that's the part of it that is like, but at the end of the day, like I said, I feel like if he wins, the good I'll get from it is the socialness, and he represents a community. If Jag wins, I feel like I love that he represents a community, multiple different communities. I'm all here for the POC winners, or even the women winners. So Bowie or Jag for the win for me. And that's how I feel, period. I know that's right. I know that's the fuck right.
I said, is your nose itchy?
It's, girl, literally, I don't know what happened. We gonna get into it after. But yes, y'all. It's like when I talk a lot, my allergies start acting up. That's like a lot of pollen coming in. But anyway, y'all, that was it. We went over all their games, get into it or whatever. Who would you vote for in this final three? Put it in the motherfucking.
And why is it Jag?
And why is it Jag Bains?
Jaggernauts Rise.
Put it, Jaggernauts Rise, Eviction Night dies. Put it in the comments or whatever. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said again, thank you for tuning in with us this season. We will still be live on the finale on Thursday. Be with us or else, bitch. We have a surprise. I said it. Then after that, we are still going to be doing Big Brother coverage, because we are still going to be doing the final player ranking next week. So get into that or whatever. Now that Big Brother is leaving, get into our Survivor shit. Get into our Amazing Race shit, because we're still covering other shows or whatever. This isn't all we do. The fuck? We have multiple fucking hands and multiple fucking Thank you for keeping it real with the kingdom.
Different areas, bitch.
We out.